good evening. Welcome to RantCast, the show about all those fun little things that run beside the nerd subject we love so much, which is Age of Sigmar. I am, of course, Mr. Mephisto, the man with every opinion, and with me tonight is, well...
Doug from 2+ Stuff.
Doug from 2+ Stuff. Pretty much one of the lore masters of the community, I think. Really, like a staple of YouTube, and if you're watching RantCast, you've probably seen Doug's show, I think. I know I more than once have, like, when you go to, like, the Age of Sigmar forums and stuff like that, they're like, oh, what shows should I watch? It's like Warhammer Weekly, 2+ Tough. Like, those are the two I always throw out. And then AOS Coach and Doom of Darkness. It's like, that's my, like, kind of go-to, those are, like, the go-to ones I always direct people toward. And lastly, sure. I might sometimes say myself, depending on reading the room, but I joke about being shameless with my self-promotion, but, like, I actually do feel shame, which is why I have to say it out loud.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. My buddy Jack always tells me, you need to promote more, you need to, like, get more buzz going. I was like, no, I don't want to.
Right. And that's part of why I framed, I was mentioning kind of off air, I framed RantCast a little bit where, like, we know what it is, you know, like, in terms of promoting yourself. Like, when I'm on Twitter, you can keep scrolling when I'm doing the advertising thing, and I take it as a kindness if you do, because I mean, Twitter's great for connecting to the community, but every now and then, like, you just gotta be a shill. So speaking of being a shill, no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No. But no, I again, thank you so much for being on the show, Doug. It's actually, like, really cool because, like, I really, like I said, I've looked up to your content for a while now, and so it's really cool to have you on. But since you are on, I think we got to talk lore. We gotta do some lore talk here. I was just watching one of your recent videos. You did the one thing I really liked, actually, like, you did this lore for, like, the newcomer video, and this is a recent release. When did you actually release that, and why did you decide to, like, do that? Because you've been going real deep on a lot of tomes for a while. I mean, you've got over 500 videos. I think probably more than half of that is dedicated to lore alone. So where was that inception? Like, hey, the story thus far, let's do this.
Oh yeah. So that actually was a suggestion by my friend Jack, again, from Rerolling Ones, where it's really hard to. You should always be thinking about, like, if I had to explain this to a new person, how would they receive it, or, you know, making it very accessible. And so typically what I do is lore based on, like, battle tome by battle tome. Mm-hmm. And so this was one where I was like, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to get people caught up on the major beats, and that kind of coincided with second edition kind of perfectly, so that folks who were once again paying attention to it could get caught up really rapidly. So yeah, I don't know, I guess because Sigmar is broken up into such clear, like, sections, like there's, you know, Realmgate Wars, and then there's Soul Wars, you know, I mean, those kinds of events, it makes it really simple.
Well, see, I really like that Age of Sigmar's lore does that. I feel like they're progressing the narrative as you're playing the game which is sort of like opposite town for 40K for how long? That game was just at a standstill in terms of its lore forever. For like 20 years they were just it was the same you know, like the sort of Three Stooges trying to get through the door thing, where they're like, it's all the big bads are just like, well, any one of these big bads could just, like, destroy humanity at any given time. It's so dire, it's so over. And kind of in contrast, like, Age of Sigmar is, the end has already happened. There's been sort of a Dark Ages, like an Age of Myth, an Age of Chaos, and now we're kind of fighting back. There's the stories, we're picking up right where the story should pick up. That's one of the big tropes of writing, one of the big, rather, rules of writing is, like, you think about, why am I telling the story now?
Right.
Age of Sigmar is telling the story now, of course, because Sigmar threw a lightning bolt down on this new army. But
yeah, that's exactly right. So yeah, I like the fact that it started on the upswing rather than, like, two equal forces and then Chaos kind of wins. It's like, no, Chaos, like, functionally won. And now this is our, like, last stand, basically. And it's grown more than that, but that's fundamentally where it started.
Right. And then you've got the Soul Wars, which is Nagash's sort of gambit himself. changing and shaping reality. Now, most of my interaction with you comes through Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't know if you picked up yet, but I'm a really big Nagash honk. Like, a really big fan of Nagash.
I have. It has flooded my feed.
Yeah, okay, all right. So, like, I want to say I take a little bit of issue with your video, which I just promoted and said I think it's great. But, like, I don't feel like you really did justice to Nagash's side of the story, which is Sigmar started it. He was a punk ass, and so Nagash did the only thing a reasonable adult death god would do, which is say, fuck you, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, because I mean, even if Nagash never came over from Warhammer Fantasy Battles,
right?
Sigmar is a tool is just a factual statement. Because like it's just been reinforced multiple times, like from the Soul Wars point on, that he's like he is at least as morally good as Nagash is, and then there are some parts where he's just a straight up turd.
Right. Well, I mean, he's essentially. It's like I don't know how much you read comics, but I'm a big fan. It's like when Thor takes over for Odin. Like,
okay,
Odin is the strategic, masterminded god who can be in charge of shit. Yeah. And Thor is just like he just fights dudes. And Sigmar suddenly has to run a pantheon of gods, not from like the tactical genius, like managing big personalities, master of knowledge. He's a war god who just wants to fucking fight, and suddenly he finds himself in the position of having to manage all these egos and all these people, and he doesn't do a great job.
No, because one of the things I loved, and you're probably right, I should probably do a gush on Nagash episode, but one of the things that I loved about the book Soul Wars is he basically, so I'm going to give a spoiler, so if you haven't read Soul Wars,
pause right now. Yeah, pause right now, go watch it.
Get on my level, skip forward 2 minutes.
All right, welcome back.
No, but so basically a Stormcast Eternal during Reforging is kind of discarded, and Nagash scoops them up and then basically reforges them into a death guy. And the reason that's significant is the dialogue between Nagash / Archaon and this Stormcast soul, where he's like, you understand that like us gods, we're the same, right? Sigmar's doing the same thing that I'm doing. You just took a mortal and you plays with them because you're nothing to us. The difference is I'm honest about it, and he makes you like have this whole religious angle. And I was like, that's a really solid point. Actually, that's a really, really good point. That like it's the whole story of like gods interfering with mortals, kind of like the old like Norse and Greek mythology.
Very Greek. It's a very like it reads very Greek to me, but only because like Greek is what I like. I grew up reading a ton of Arthurian legend, Greek mythology, and then I found The Hobbit, and then like it was over for me. But like I got into like, so I think of fantasy very much in those. Initially, when I first started reading, I really thought of it in terms of like Greek, and so like when I see those shades of Greek mythology, because Greek mythology is essentially gods fuck up your life.
Yes.
And like and heroes are deeply flawed. Like
it is true.
Like all the like heroes in Greek mythology, like and I'm not talking about like the literal Achilles heel. They're usually kind of like douchebags in a little bit of a sense.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're like, there's a flaw, but then that flaw is magnified to a deity level, and it's like, what does that look like? And they're terrible. Like the 10,000 sons of Zeus, because he gets around. All of a sudden, one of them turns into Hercules. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it makes for really good storytelling, though. Is the thing? Is like, well, you might not want to hang out with these people and like, you know, be the best man at their wedding. They're really fun stories to tell, and I think Age of Sigmar. I mean, one of the things that made Age of Sigmar so good is because that mythic fantasy level, like this isn't like the toned down, dour, you know, fantasy as a sort of disassembly of what the Dark Ages were. This is a very like turned up to 11 rock and roll fantasy.
Yes, it is. It is a bunch of classic myths. Like folklore mixed with acid, mixed with, I don't know, a Seether concert or something. I don't know. Just something fun.
No, it's So it's really cool, and so like I think you kind of give people a nice little jump off point with this video that just released like 6 months ago. I guess it's a long time in terms of the internet, but like
it doesn't feel like it.
yeah. When you're grinding out content and stuff like that, you can I'm like, oh crap, RantCast started 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and I'm like, wow, I thought it was just yesterday. So it's
buckle in,
yeah, buckle in. If I'm still making these in 6 months, whoo, buddy, like I could be that lucky, right? Like, so yeah, but like, so I thought it was like a really cool jump off point, and then you go through and you, like you said, you do a lot of the tome reviews, and you from a very lore standpoint, not necessarily these units are what are great, these units are garp. No, it's very much like you basically break down the propaganda that is a battle tome.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Which is go on, yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and I hope it's conveyed that it is propaganda, because every battle tome has the most powerful army, and they're all apocalyptic, and they're all gonna win, but it's not true.
Right, and well, I mean, they like Nagash's the actual Legions of Nagash battle tome, like the way that reads is pure propaganda, pure rhetoric.
Exactly, yeah.
It's so good in that, like, it's like Nagash is right, Sigmar was wrong. It talks about like Sigmar betrayed Nagash, which is why he did what he had to do. And since he's a thinking man, and time is meaningless to him, like he can take he can like lose battles here along the way. He can let like Archaon just kill him at his own gate. So
take a nap for a while.
So he can come back and just like and recoup, because he's like, whatever Sigmar's planning in the long run. First off, fuck that guy for not like. You're going to wake me up in this new world, say I'm your death god, I'm in charge of the souls and stuff like that, which, I'll begrudgingly do. It's a big responsibility, but you know what? I'll do it. Just excuse me while I go eat all the existing death gods real quick.
Pretty much, yeah.
But, okay, fine. So, like, he hangs out with, like, him and Sigmar. They have their little, like, their little, like, Breakfast Club style pantheon of, like, of deities. And then something happens, and it really doesn't say what the initial slight is in the tome anyway, that Nagash perceived from Sigmar. I think the betrayal is that is that Sigmar was siphoning off souls, and Nagash took that. He's like, motherfucker, I'm supposed to be the death god.
So you're talking about like in the Age of Myth when everything fell apart?
Yeah, like
so
if you read the Legion of Nagash tome, it makes it sound like Nagash, because he doesn't show up to the Battle of Burning Skies, and Sigmar is pissed. But he does that because he thinks Sigmar betrayed him. There's some betrayal he perceives, and that's from the perspective of the Nagash battle tome. But of course, we know this is propaganda.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
But we're still like, what was this perceived slight? Do you have any idea what that might be? Because I have my like tinfoil hat. But
yeah, there's a few things. So it could be. So it's never confirmed, like exactly what happened. But there were a few things where like Sigmar was leading campaigns to reclaim the realms, seed cities and start order and that kind of stuff. And he was collecting all these weapons, which we now know are storm vaults, which is from Forbidden Power. So it could have been the slight of saying, like, how come he's taking all those things? What's he doing with them? And like building up a plot in your head. It could also be because here's the thing: is like Nagash from the Ossiarch Bone Reapers lore started that army before things went sour.
Yeah.
So, but that being said, it doesn't necessarily mean that he had like malicious intent. He's just like, oh no, like the world is horrible and I just need to rule it. Like it's not like a malicious thing.
Shout outs to Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog.
Exactly. And I just need to rule it. And that's exactly how I think about it. But like, I think something else happened to create the animosity, and we're not quite sure what that is.
I mean, we didn't know about the weapons being stashed away by Sigmar until Forbidden Power, essentially, right? Like as readers of the lore. That's when that kind of like card got flipped over, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's possible that was like Nagash was onto that. He's like, motherfucker, you are stashing all this shit. Like so there's like whatever it is, there's something happened, and that's why Nagash in his propaganda tome didn't show up to the battle, and he blames Sigmar, the soul thief.
Yes.
And these guys. Do you know which book it is then when Sigmar is like talking to? I think he's talking to Balthazar Gelt actually. Well, I don't know. May not be Balthazar Gelt. Right. Talking to somebody, and he says like Nagash and I were once friends. Like he actually like reflects on that and then like
Oh, that was Soul Wars.
that was in the Soul Wars. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty. So what you're saying is I finally have to cave and read some Black Library literature, and read the Soul Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like Soul Wars. It's a very cumbersome book, but there's some of the best dialogue of the gods in there, and so you get kind of a good picture of them. I wish they did the same thing for like Alariel or some of the other ones, but
yeah, I mean, Alariel seems unfortunately like a little bit of a, I want to say like sort of an afterthought. Her story is really cool though, where she like gets mad, she goes into her war form, she tries to take back the take back her realms and so on and so forth. But
right,
like I don't feel like it's really been explored as much, even though they've had nearly 2 Sylvaneth tomes now.
Well, it's always like she's there, and you're like, cool. But Nagash is like, I'm here, and I have a plan, and I have this history of why I don't like things. Like, you know, he feels like a fully fleshed out character.
Right.
But Alariel, you know, she's just there.
She's just there.
Her twig friends, yeah, a bunch of groups.
with her and like even Marathi's got like is pretty decently fleshed out.
Exactly, yeah. A lot of them are. Archaon, he's another one where like I don't feel like they really. I'm hoping it's a new book coming out that they really dive into him, but it's the Ever Chosen Battle Tome as it is right now is like 15 pages of fluff saying he's big. You're like,
right,
okay,
right. He is so impressive and Grand Marshal of the Apocalypse. But like, what have you done for me lately, like Archaon?
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
He just like he's basically been twiddling his thumbs since the flip to Age of Sigmar. Like
I know, and he's got a throne he refuses to sit in. So it's like you're not even like chilling. You're just like circling the parking lot doing nothing.
I'm sure, and it's my hope that the STD tome goes into like what has he been doing in the same sense where like Legion of Nagash wasn't. I don't think like a full and proper tome. It was really just like Grand Alliance Death 2.0. Whereas Ossiarch Bone Reapers was really like a full on. This is what Nagash has really been doing, and in a sense, like I'm selfish because we have had the Soul Wars and we had the Malign Portents and all this stuff. Like Nagash has been very, very busy. He's been central to the plot. But like Archaon just, I mean, for being such a big deal, what have you been doing, man? And so hopefully when we get this STD tome, he goes, oh, this, and it's really sweet. Warcry, I feel like hints a little bit at it. Like Warcry, like hints that Archaon. Well, no, it more hints that Archaon's just not there. He doesn't give a shit. Right. But people have heard his call, quote unquote.
The entire game and scope of Warcry is fighting to get your application in front of a hiring manager. Like that is actually what it is, right? They're all fighting to get his attention to get brought onto the Varangard. So it's like, I don't know. But I mean, again, but like that just reinforces how big and important he is, not necessarily what he's actively doing.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a very good, a very important distinction. Clarification. Like he's not like partying, and he's really not like saying, "Hey, come submit." Like he didn't put the like sign in the window that says now accepting applications. They just,
exactly yes, help wanted.
Like these people are just pushy. They're just showing up. I mean, it does make for a pretty cool, like the all points. This story, it does make for a pretty cool, or the 8 points. Sorry, all points is something else. It makes for a really cool backdrop to an entire game, and there's a lot of ways to come at it from a lore standpoint. I know they released that fiction anthology that was actually really, really cool. That was essentially propaganda for why you should play Warcry. So yeah. I guess that actually leads me to one of the questions we actually got in general when we were when we announced this show, which is, do you have any hopes? This is from Mars Mini Painting on Twitter. Do you have any hopes for STD?
I have a few. So I think the biggest one, I'm going to split them into like lore and gameplay. So gameplay wise, what I really truly want is for the units in that battle tome to be better in that battle tome than they are in the Chaos God books. Like, I want them to, like, I want Chaos Warriors to feel really badass in their own book, as opposed to what we have, that weird situation with, what are the dudes from Night Haunt that are just strictly better in
Grimgas Reapers were strictly better than in Legions of Nagash.
where it's like, I don't want that. I want something like I grab this book and I'm like, hell yeah, I don't know, whatever the Star Collecting box that's coming out is, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you achieve
So
that with good allegiance abilities, really, is how
totally, yeah. And I'm not sure, the idea was floated around. Someone asked me, like, well, what if they went Beast of Chaos style, got rid of the marking individual units and made that battalions? Because that would add a degree of like separation.
Well, that's what Beast of Chaos did, actually. Like you have to.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to pay for that though. Like, and that you're paying a tax to do that now. And I think that might actually be a good blueprint for how they could address it with Slaves to Darkness. Is like you don't get to just for free hop into somebody else's army now. Like you have to pay a tax. Like you have to pay the toll.
And I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence about that. Like I like all the Chaos Gods have this like other reserve they can draw from. At the same time, I really want them to be their own thing, and if that's what it takes, that's cool. I'm down with it, especially if it clears up any weird interactions between the two, like that'll come up rules wise.
And that's the other thing is that there's a cleanliness. If when they write a unit that they're like, oh, this can be in 2, 3, 4, 5, now 6 armies.
Yeah, exactly.
That can get really muddy in terms of like how awesome you can make that thing. Because in your army, it might be completely fine. But then in these 2 armies, it becomes a problem. And so if you just... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, if you kind of lock them behind some sort of points barrier in that, like you have to pay points to put them, or a battalion, something like that, I think... Or, I mean, it's not like needlessly prohibitive, but it does kind of incentivize you to play it in its own thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I remember when I was in first edition, where you could take a Slaves to Darkness unit, usually it's Marauders, and play them in a Maggotkin of Nurgle army, and take the Ever Chosen battalion that was like Tom used to run it from Warhammer Weekly, where like it would do mortal wounds and that kind of stuff. Where it's just like, okay, you have just made this like Kevin Bacon 6 degrees of separation, like monstrosity that I'm now looking at Slaves to Darkness units in a Maggotkin book. Over here is Ever Chosen. You're like, no.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, that's early design of Age of Sigmar has kind of deviated from that. It used to be a lot of like you are playing mixed destruction, mixed chaos, you were doing that was just kind of how the game was being played. But as tomes were coming out, it's like, no, you play in your tome now. Yeah. And allegiance abilities is one of the ways that they really heavily incentivize you.
Totally. What I was going to say. So that's the gameplay side, is mostly just having the units be flavorful in their own faction. The narrative side is I want to know what Archaon's been doing since the Rumgate Wars, because he was a really cool figure in that. Like anytime he was on the scene, he like stole the focus, as he should. He's like super badass. But we haven't heard of anything since, so I want to know how the Necroquake affected him, what he's doing. Well, I don't know.
My reading of I consume a lot of my reading through like reading the like actual battle tomes and like the Malign Portents and stuff like that is what I've read, rather than going on buying specific runs of books.
Honestly, me too.
Yeah. I mean, it's how I've always done it, and I kind of like that you get these little islands and then you're left to speculate between. It's fun that way. It's like building a list, and you're kind of building the narrative puzzle pieces too. It's a very similar thought structure. And my read from kind of the tomes and some of the stories in Malign Portents and things like that was that Chaos had kind of underestimated Nagash, because he just kind of he eyes on the prize. He said, like, during the time of Chaos, he's just like, screw this. I gotta play for the longer game now. Because I beat Chaos for Sigmar. What does that do for me? Like, then Sigmar just gets all the glory and he's in power. Like, screw that guy. I feel like the Necroquake, like all the Chaos Gods just kind of had to like turn their heads completely to the side and now look over at Nagash and like respect him now.
That what was it in for not Forbidden Power, in Malign Portents? Yeah, they had a section for each Chaos God where like each of them had their own personal reaction, where it's like Khorne saw that all the skulls were already claimed because everyone's dead and they're all headless, or they're falling apart as skeletons, and like Slaanesh is like, oh my god, it's gonna be boring. And so they all have a personal reason to be like, what's he doing? Don't let him do that.
Right. Well, because Chaos can't win if Nagash wins. Like they need
Exactly.
They need mortals to torture and torment and to pull into the chaos into this great game. So question here from Twitch chat real quick from AOS Coach. He asked predictions for narrative progression via Archaon. Is he the new protagonist taking over from Nagash? And I like that he phrased it as the new protagonist. The protagonist, yeah, go on.
Yeah, no. So I'll be honest. In my heart, I really want Destruction to be the next, we'll say, protagonist.
Well, yeah. I mean, a protagonist in traditional narrative gets confused for good guy. You know, protagonist is just who drives the story.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, I want Destruction armies to be that. I would really love it. Gordrak, right? Is that him?
Gordrak, yeah, the big wall, yeah.
Yeah. I want that. But Archaon, going back to Chaos in between Destruction and Death would not be a bad idea, and that would be really cool. I would actually like that a lot, especially if they went through the lengths they did with Nagash in terms of making this story seem like it's been founded since before time, and he's pulling all these strings and he's organized. So, because you figure like the story of Nagash since the Soul War started isn't just learning that the Ossiarch Bone Reapers were back before. It's the Necroquake. It's all of a sudden he accidentally made the Night Haunt, and then he put a Mortarch in charge, and there's stuff going on.
He
I want to do that.
Yeah, he actually he sought audience with Olander and like, okay, you're their Mortarch or Mortarch. Yep. Yeah. Well, Catacross' story is like really cool. Where like he was trapped under a storm vault and like the Necroquake just knocks him off, and like freaking Lord Zed in the Power Rangers, he's just like, finally I've returned type thing, and he just like emerges from like under the moon or whatever.
Did you read the Forbidden Power lore?
The Forbidden Power I've begun reading, so I've just started like delving into that. I did do Malign Portents, and so Forbidden Power was just like it was a vanity purchase because I knew I wasn't going to use anything in it. So, yeah. So that was I guess you divided it up in sort of like rules. We covered the rules, and then lore. Is it just is there anything specific, or you just want Archaon to drive the plot for a little while?
I want Archaon to drive the plot, and that's the thing where it's like so many of the other units, unless they're releasing new stuff, which I don't necessarily see, he is such a dominating character in that army. I kind of feel like what's another good example? Marathi. Where it's just like they're so iconic to that faction that. Or Catacross too in the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, where it's like their lore is so integral to it that if you do a good job of defining that character, it makes everyone else cooler, right?
Yeah,
because they're all on board.
If you got to deal with the character versus fight the character, or like how you approach the character helps you develop your own character. That's why, I mean, not to film reference here, but that's why the Coen Brothers stuff is so great, because they just have these awesome characters, and what's going on in the film doesn't matter. Like, look at The Big Lebowski. It's just the dude abiding, and it's just a guy. It's just a guy, and that one character in a kidnapping plot. It's just a basic kidnapping plot makes everyone cooler, like just in throughout the whole movie, because you get to have this counterpoint. Same thing happens when you do these like little lore things. Nagash got sweeter, and by proxy, everyone around him got cooler with how they had to deal with him. Like Skaven. I always like joke that Nagash is like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget, and Skaven are just like Inspector Gadget, just kind of like bumbling their way through fucking up his plans.
Mr. Beaning their way into being the saviors of the world.
and that's kind of what happened, is like the Skaven just had to like break glass in case of emergency, because like Nagash very nearly won, like he very nearly, and then like we have to release an entirely new game. Because and now we're on
Age of Nagash.
Age of Nagash. We're on octagonal basis or some shit. Like you can only play death armies. Now Nagash is the big bad evil guy he's always wanted to be. You're playing as the different Mortarch's armies trying to like wrestle back control. Now that would be a sweet game, Games Workshop. And if you need somebody to write it for you, my Twitter handle is at Mr_Meth. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. So anything else to add, like on STD? I feel like it's a pretty deep subject. You don't want to scoop yourself, because you're gonna have a lot of fun when that tome comes out. Right?
Not really though. I mean, like whenever a new battle tome comes out, especially if it's an existing army or something that I'm excited about, which I am specifically excited for this, I try very hard to keep like, an open hand in terms of things are allowed to change. It could be marked per unit. It could be marked for a battalion. I don't care. Like, I just want it to be a fun ride.
Right.
That's about it.
Right. Right on. Are you going to be building STD then? Is that going to be an army you'll pursue?
I'll see how the book is. So basically, like, I had a Slaves to Darkness army, but my painting skill progressed to the point where I just wanted to restart the entire thing, and so I sold it off. And so it has to be super like dead sexy rules to get me back in. I'm gonna be honest with you. Yeah. And when I say dead sexy, I just mean very flavorful.
Right.
They feel like they should on the table, that kind of thing.
So I know for 2019 you've had this quest to stick with Beast of Chaos. How's that going?
Oh, I made it to about February 2nd.
Right on. So it's going great. It's great.
Yeah, super. So I am someone who buys a faction used, paints it up, gets really excited about it. I start a series on my channel about how I'm gonna stay with this army and really master it, and then about 2 weeks later I get rid of it and do the whole process all over again.
See, I actually bring up Beast of Chaos because when I saw the STD stuff, like, first off, the Chaos Warriors look sweet. Like, they look
right.
I mean, everyone's talking about it, and everyone they all say pretty much the same thing, which is they've hammered that gap between being classic and modern, like, and they've done it nicely. When I saw that release, I went, "Oh, I hope I get a really good ally for my Beast of Chaos army." Yeah. And so, like, that's my hope for Slaves to Darkness, is that they have some fatty monster or really great hero that's under 400 points.
I mean, the thing that makes it seem so appealing to me is that they're bringing in all of the Warcry factions and a bunch of monsters from that game. Mm-hmm. So, like, that sounds rad. I want a Beastmaster army of just like me and my like 6 War Llamas, whatever they previewed thing, charging.
See, those War Llamas look sweet, but you've coined the proper name for them, which is War Llamas.
Yes, suck it, Vince. So I got this one. You got Bone Daddies.
So I've taken up the War Llama agenda, and nice. I won over Bone Claves. So instead of calling them like legions.
I like that one.
They're bone claves, so that was what I coined. So I've got my one thing. You got to do it, man. You gotta, if you want to be hot, you gotta contribute to the nomenclature, to the parlance of the game, of the community. And War Llamas, I vote from Mr. Mephisto, which is a really important vote to get.
Exactly.
I'm like Iowa. I'm like the Iowa of. Of like votes and campaigning for things. So War Llamas, which actually kind of brings me to one of the other Twitter questions. Well, one of the questions I was going to say for the end, but since we're already here, why are your community's memes so dank? Because, like, you did the War Llamas thing, and I immediately saw someone like make a Twitter like image and clap back and stuff like that. There's a lot of like really good fun that I see like happens in your Twitter feed.
I don't know. I just try to encourage people to have fun. For me, so my personal Facebook feed, which I don't like friend a lot of people in the hobby community because I have a lot of family that are very sensitive to certain comments, and all of a sudden I keep those things separate. It's cool. Mm-hmm. But everything I do is memes. There's no politics, there's no drama. It's just I see something funny and I share it. And so my love language is memes. That's half of what me and my wife send each other.
It's just dank memes. So like you're not just like, you're part of it, Lynn. Like you're a part. You and okay. So your part is spreading the dank memes.
The second somebody shares me one, I share it everywhere. And so I think that kind of like incentivizes people to be like, instead of just saying I like that, if they, people feel like they can get their 15 minutes of just like, look, I can make fun of Doug too. Yeah, people like that.
Yeah. And you're a really good sport because sometimes they will like you become the actual joke in the meme, and it's not just like and you just like you'll share. So that's really cool.
Yeah, my favorite one so far was they put my face over Bear Grylls, and his like the sun's going down, better drink my own piss, or it's just like the sun came up today, better sell an army. because they're all true.
Right. Well, I mean, that's great humor, right? Is the kernel of truth to good humor. Oh man, yeah. Oh man, it's been like it's really funny. There, yeah, the War Llama thing got me. I was just like in tears. I was just like freaking. Oh man. And then I guess like we could get serious with it too, which is like you've been in the content creator game for like a while now.
Yeah.
Have you gotten any like hate, like, and how do you deal with that? Have you gotten your haters too?
Yeah, I have. It was mostly the first year was probably the roughest. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because when I started, AOS had already launched, and it was before the first General's Handbook, and so people were just very, very, very mad about fantasy battles going away, and the way GW released Age of Sigmar, and just a myriad of things that were legit, but then they shared that displeasure in not legit ways. So that was honestly the most. But honestly, like so somebody would leave a nasty comment, and I am someone who I struggle to not feed the trolls.
Oh, like you gotta like okay.
Yeah, but basically, I just respond. I respond with kindness, and I'm just like, "Hey, thank you for sharing that thought. I tell you, I understand completely about your Bretonian army. I'm really sorry to hear about that. But hey, listen, like." You don't have to crap on this stuff. Tell me what you liked about that army, you know, that kind of thing. And people just got really chill. I mean, that was it.
So you really broadcast the kindness out, and that helped you kind of shape the community early in the face of hate.
I think I like to think so. Because the truth, I don't know. It's just I get called a shill a lot, mostly by my friends. And it's because I don't have anything negative to say about Games Workshop stuff, generally.
Yeah.
But the truth is just like life is far too short to spend any amount of time talking about stuff you don't like. I'm just not gonna. If it's not on my channel, it's because I don't like it. Like straight up.
So you heard it here. Everything that's not on his channel, puppies, baby, he hates them all. Everybody.
Exactly. Well, you know, so one of the first battle tomes to get allegiance abilities, like early on, was Beastclaw Raiders, and people were like, "You have done a lore week for every freaking army except that one." It's like I hate them. Like I don't hate them like the models. I love the way the faction works. I just they didn't go in any. It was that weird phase in Age of Sigmar lore writing in the battle tomes where they didn't actually tell you any concrete information. It's just like we don't know what the Everwinter is. Maybe it's like the storm. You know what I mean? And you're like, what are you talking about? You gotta give me something to get excited about.
Yeah.
Because these guys are so cool. But it's like there's no lore to really dive into, and they've changed that. I think Maw Tribes is a fantastic book, and they really they put Beastclaw Raiders to fit them in super well with the army, and I like that. That's why I did a Maw Tribes week. But when it was just Beastclaw Raiders, I was like, this is so dry. I was like, I don't know.
Well, like it was like a little too thin on the lore for you. Essentially, is what like the main thing that kind of made you apprehensive about the original BCR book.
I just got an episode from AOS Coach going.
Yeah, chat's been popping off here. It's actually been pretty great. Like they're basically the show within the show is chat gang when you're watching here. Go on. It seems like you had a thought there.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, but yeah, like you know, the second it gave me something to like get excited about, I was talking about it, right? I mean, they released like 4 battle tomes all at once, so I couldn't talk about it immediately, but I got on it.
Yeah, you're right. Well, see, that's the thing is like with my shows, like I tend to do a lot more like AOS adjacent topics because I do think there's a lot of like great content creators, yourself included, already doing that, like the tome reviews and like the lower reviews and stuff like that. So I'm trying to do something a little like adjacent to that and incorporate that stuff along the way. And that's been my approach. Is that like there's, I mean, honestly, like. You can't compete with just like your excitement for the stuff you do put out is marked, and you have a voice that is like a jazz saxophone. It is smooth and buttery. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you.
I've
joked with doing a what is it, ASMR video of just like
just reading the tome,
sitting here building some Necromunda models and being like, now we're gonna give her a shotgun. It's a little clip sound.
Oh man, 10 out of 10 would sub for
just get up in there and just be like, oh yeah, that's a good clip. That's a real good clip. Just like, what?
Oh man, we'll do a ASMR edition RantCast. Oh,
Yep.
we'll just bring on like all the great like voiced people, and we'll just talk about what we're doing.
Yeah. Halo Twitch has another one that's just like, why don't you just like read me like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea so I can just fall asleep to it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just yeah. He's got one of those really good voices too.
He has a great voice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that's one of the things like when you pair aptitude, passion, and I think you get something special. And yeah, man. Have you told Haywell how you feel about Beastclaw Raiders yet? By the way, because I don't think he's been taking it too good over on his channel.
I mean, I follow him on Twitter and I see it, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna touch that. Then I just keep scrolling. Where I know he's unhappy, and I want so hard to validate, because I mean, I validate opinions. I don't have to agree with them.
Right? Yeah. No, absolutely.
I think it's but it's hard. It's hard for me to, again, like I want not that he's being a troll when he shares his opinion, but like to not get sucked into like, but actually, dude, you know what I mean? I don't want to do that because he's allowed to feel. He's allowed to feel.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's part of it is one thing that I like to take care with this community is continuing to like kind of reinforce that it's okay to disagree with people in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Content creators, I don't think any one of us is 100% in line with each other's perspectives. I don't think there's a single one of us that does that. But as long as we respect each other, validate each other a little bit, you can disagree in a manner that's productive to like the community itself. When you get these differing opinions, then that like audiences can latch onto and they can kind of see how we handle it, and then in turn handle it better themselves, and so on and so forth. That or just troll, like, because internet snark is really fun.
Oh yeah. Well, and the thing that I I always stress with people is like, they're not wrong. Like honestly, the people like what are some of them? So you have Halo Twitch, you have AOS Coach, Doom and Darkness, Honest Wargamer. Like when they talk about things, like they're not wrong, but they are subjective. So for example, like you hear online in a lot of forums and stuff that Seraphon are crap because their book is ancient, and Maw Tribes is underpowered compared to other stuff that came out recently, and Slaanesh is so broken you should ban them or shelve them depending on if you're a fan of Vince Ventrella or of Honest Wargamer.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Then this last weekend I went to an event, I beat Slaanesh round 1 and I lost to Seraphon and Maw Tribes round 2 and 3, and it's just like, it made me chuckle to myself because it's like, this is literally the inverse of what the internet tells you. So don't assume that it's true, but take it into consideration. Like I did approach the Slaanesh game of being like, this is going to be uphill, and it was. And then I went to the other ones and I was like, this is going to be a cakewalk because that's what the internet says, and then I got nut stomped. So
well, I think part of it is a lot of times internet debate regarding Age of Sigmar is framed around one thing and one thing alone, which is the sort of just the numbers competitive side of things. Most discussions, and I'm guilty of it myself, like frame it around that. And and that's just one perspective. It is that sort of subjective angle that they're looking at it from. And if you forget that the game is played in 3 dimensions by different players that aren't, one of the things I hate seeing is like, oh, I refuse to play against Skaven. Skaven is busted. I refuse to play against Slaanesh. It's busted. And then there's always that one extra degree that implies you think Slaanesh players or Skaven players, like, you go too far and you start to, like, judge them based on their army. And it's like, the average Skaven player I've played is, to generalize and exactly, like, contradict myself, tends to be, an old fan of the army. They tend to be an old fan. They're in it for they've been in it for a long time, and they're just happy to play their army again.
100%.
And they're not on the 100% kick your teeth in tournament heavy best list ever. And so if you start talking with them as though they are on the internet, you're going to already come into this discussion like shooting at a different angle from each other. So you're just not going to align and be able to see eye to eye and talk, because you're just on different levels of what you're even discussing to begin with. This common lexicon I talk about, like it's you got to establish like a common lexicon between each other before you begin to discuss some of this stuff. And I think that's part of the role. That's part of what you just have to be aware of when you're a human, and
for sure
being aware of it, and then that's going to let you have a lot better time talking about stuff on the internet.
Totally. And that's kind of something that, like, I believe, I trust, because I confirmed with him that Rob understood what I was talking about. So I poked some jabs on him on Twitter when he put a post up that like Maw Tribes was terrible and Ossiarch Bone Reapers were broken. And then the source of that was because no one had a chance to play it yet and enjoy it. It was actually before the books officially came out.
It was that in the same thread as Immolation is the most busted ability that they have, or something like that?
I don't think I commented on that one, but okay. I also, that makes me chuckle. You just said that. But anyway, but and that was because it wasn't out yet. But now that it's been out, it's like, no. I mean, once it's out in the field, it's like, if he still sees those things, they're so valid because it's what his perception is, and he should share it. You know what I mean? Like, they're totally validating that. And I get made fun of a lot because of that, because people thought I was being very spicy, but I just wasn't on Twitter. It's just not.
I'm about to, like, Twitter is really one of those things. I want a date function for, like, searching through Twitter. I want to be able to go back and read some of this, because I got, like, I went in with what I normally do, which is internet snark whenever I see something that I find snarky. You have established the terms of engagement, sir, so I shall engage you on your level if you're being snarky.
Well, it's funny. So we jabbed each other back and forth. Me and Rob, and then I made it emphatically clear with like 3 messages of like, just so you know, like, I super respect you. Like, this is totally cool. And he was like, I totally understand. And then there's a whole bunch of people surrounding that conversation that were like, oh man, they're gonna fight.
Yeah, like the hype man, like they're just around you, like fight. Well, that's actually like where I was gonna go with the interaction is, so like I was snarky back to Rob, right? But then the honest wargamer echo chamber will actually like start to like fill in around that discussion. And then you're not you're suddenly not talking to him anymore. You're talking to like the other, you're talking to these other folks that aren't as concise or cognizant of their own opinion, right? The way that Rob is, like, he's very much thought about what he's about to say and why he says it. From whatever angle he views it from, he's thought about it independently. I find.
Yep.
And so it's a lot easier to also like discuss someone's own opinion rather than like someone regurgitating an opinion they read off the internet. Now you're arguing with their knowledge, their encyclopedic knowledge of internet posts, and not even the person anymore.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. No, but anyway, I just wanted to throw that.
Which is where dank memes come in.
Exactly. Yeah. You know what could solve this argument? Memes.
Dank memes. No, I think I'm trying to be better, because I came in thinking I was a nobody for a long time with the way I would like start interacting with people on Twitter. I'm like, oh, I'm just like a goofy nobody. And then I'm like, oh crap, people are starting to like watch my show. And so like, I run the danger now of saying something that like I say snarkily for my humor thing. And then I'm going to go on RantCast and rant for 3 hours explaining the point. But somebody who follows me and takes what I believe to heart might then just take that, and then now they're going to go someplace else with what I've said. Like, so. Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things. Social media is an interesting thing with this hobby, because like, what you introduced me as like an authority on lore, like what makes me that? Nothing. I don't have a degree. I didn't go to Games Workshop U.
Yeah, I said passionate. Like you really focus on it. I don't know that I said you are the. Maybe I did. The preeminent authority, I think, is exactly what I said. That if it's about lore and Doug says it is fact and sacrosanct, and therefore.
Yes, I mean, yeah.
That's what I said.
It's lore because I said it. Is what you're. Yeah.
That's yeah. It's not lore until Doug says it on 2 Plus Tough. Continue your point. I'm sorry. I just.
No, it's all good. But I was just gonna say that like getting involved in the conversation and then asking meaningful questions and giving meaningful responses, like that is 100% of what it is to be a leader in the community. And then the people who can do that consistently while encouraging others to enjoy what they love, rise to the top. Like that's exactly what you're in the process of doing. Like what I'm in the process of doing, because there are other wargaming channels that like blow my sub count out of the water. We're all on that train.
Well, I mean, and this is AOS coaches hanging out here in chat, and I wouldn't really be doing RantCast if it wasn't for some advice he gave me at the very, very beginning of the year, which was essentially like I was personally going through this issue where like the way RantCast unfurls with talking about movies and all this crap at the same time I'm talking about Age of Sigmar is because I personally link everything within myself together. So
Yeah.
my problems become linked to everything within me. And so I had to like unravel this ball of yarn of just a bunch of stuff. And it took me until like October this year to kind of get a handle on it. And part of the thing I was really struggling with is like all of my interests are linked together, and like I'm an active Age of Sigmar gamer and player, and there are people who follow you for Age of Sigmar, and they don't want to see anything but models in their feed, right? And it's like, well, every now and then I want to talk about Street Fighter and like stuff like that. And so I'm like, how do I be a Age of Sigmar, quote unquote Age of Sigmar person, and like still maintain all these other things I loved? And like at some point it's just like, you know what, unite the clans, man. Like who gives a crap? Be you.
You do it Chuck Moore style. Yeah, he's a Swiftie, Taylor Swift enthusiast. And he just engages the Age of Sigmar community and hammers home everything's a Taylor Swift meme.
Oh yeah. Now it's a brand thing. ABB, always be on brand. Like he is the source of Tay Rathy. Like and he's got the costume too. Like I don't know if you've seen the Tay Rathy costume.
I have never seen the costume.
It's a thing to behold. It is fucking majestic. It's magnificent.
So AOS coach actually, I'm following the chat too, pointed out the best thing, and that is just be human. And I have found more often than not the times where I stop pretending to be like 2+ tough and I just share Doug. I get the most response. Like one time I was in the middle of it was during Daughters of Cain week when I was doing the entire weeks with the lore. We had to put my cat down, and we had this cat since it was like born. And I just had a video. I was like, "Hey guys, just so you know, like I had to put my pet down, so I'm gonna take like some time off." And like that was my most commented on video for an obscene amount of time of people just being super cool. Yeah, I don't know. So I like that kind of stuff. It makes it really, really nice and easy to do stuff for the community.
I mean, and you're also I think you're very forward about like we joke about the shill thing. Ha ha ha! It's really funny. We didn't get one actual shill question when we were trying to get questions for the show. I'm disappointed in you, community. Get your shit together. But like you there's nothing wrong with being honest that like I'm being professional with my brand. I get a source of income. The one actually the Kappa thing, which I think we'll talk about a little bit here, where you did your Kappa sort of state of the channel video. You're like, I make like 1/2 of my income off of this for like, you know, the brand basically. And like you're very forward with like, this is, you know, this helps me keep doing what I do. And I think that there's like when you're dishonest about it, I feel like that rubs me personally. I don't like when people are dishonest about like the game of being in social media, creating content. You know, this is why I keep referencing Letterman. Because David Letterman knew that he's getting guests on the show to talk about the movie that's about to come out. He knew it every time. But, like, he'd get that out of the way, or do it on the tail end, where, like, okay, let's roll the clip. But then he just had like, you go, be honest about the thing, and then just have the conversation. And, like, that's what I personally respect and resonate with, is like, this takes a lot of time and effort. And you know, I don't even write show notes, so I barely put any time into this show. But like you've got bumper music, you go through and you sift out all your art, like you've got backing tracks, like you put a lot of care and effort into your content. It doesn't matter that you're not getting a check from, you know, Mr. Games Workshop every month. Like it's still in a sense a professional endeavor to create content on that level. I mean, Rob Stein's the same way. Like his coverage it's you know, professional level coverage. Go on.
Yeah, no, I just I was when I made the jump to doing to having a Patreon account, that was me. I made a video. I don't know if I still up or not, but I was just very clear. It's like, hey, this is reaching a point where community's engaged. I got in on the ground floor when no one else was talking about AOS, and I stated my intention very clearly. Like, there's nothing manipulative. I want to do this for a living. I don't do a lot of the crappy stuff that other YouTubers do in terms of, I don't know. Like, you're not going to see, like, MeUndies commercials during my video. Like, they're never going to be the sponsor of my video, or, you know, Purple Mattress, or what are some other stupid things?
Oh, Casper Mattress.
Yeah, like, Casper, yeah. AdamandEve.com. Like, you know. Man. Slanesh Week is brought to you by AdamandEve.com.
Oh, see, that would be great, though. Like, I would do that just for the joke. like, can I shill to you guys for 1 week because I'm doing some Slaanesh content?
Yes. Andrew nailed it. Yeah, so I mean, and like I've actually joked about making fake ads for products that have nothing to do with AOS, but I don't know how that works like copyright wise. If I was just like randomly going through a video at the end of it, I was like, this was brought to you by Charmin Ultra. Like 2-ply.
2-ply, it's 2-ply, it's tough. Boom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's a parody clause in terms of content that you could potentially get away with it under, but you have to make it clear that it's parody and humor. And then you also have to then like do a disclaimer like this, like not I don't actually get paid money by these guys to do this thing.
Totally.
So there's a way to do it. So there's a way to do it, but I'm not certain exactly. Consult your lawyer, which you now have.
Yeah, I might just put text at the bottom to say like they were in no way related to this commercial. So cool. I don't know, it was kind of stuff, but like I don't do any of those things. When I did do the Patreon, people were incredibly supportive, but there was a caveat where they said never put stuff behind a paywall, and I was like, done. And you know what I mean? Like if that's all you ask to make this a better show, done.
Yeah.
Not do the thing everyone else does, done.
Well, I mean, Jim Sterling, he's a video game. He does the Jimquisition. Very video game heavy YouTuber. He's one of those guys that like when I was writing for Kotaku, I was a contributor for Kotaku before they got their new business model and stuff. I really like he was coming up and he was getting really big, and like he was one of those guys where I'm like, if I ever make content, I'm gonna do it like he does it, which is no paywall for his content. He's got different tiers of his Patreon. He's like, but it's just you're paying what you want, because you're supporting me, and that's how I generate revenue. And like that honesty, then you see like folks out there, and like if that's how they do it, fine, good on them. But that's not how I do it. Where they do like to get the podcast, you have to be a tier 3 Patreon. Otherwise, you can't download the podcast. Like, I'm just like, that's cool. One of the ideas I was playing with for a while was, like, releasing some of my fiction that I write, like, as part of Patreon subscribers. But, like, I'm like, well, now I'm putting it behind a paywall. Or am I giving it access, and what's the difference? And I'm like, so I haven't even touched it, because since I have the question, that means that the audience will have that question.
And I think that touches on a really great point. It's not even a matter of like, how am I going to be received? Like always thinking about how other people think about you kind of thing. That's not great. But thinking about if I were to achieve doing this full time, but I didn't do it in the way that I wanted to, where I have zero guilt, zero question, I don't want that. You know what I mean? And so like my slow burn upwards, which now might go downward a little bit because of Kappa, it gets a lot longer if you want to do, make an honest living. It takes time.
Yeah, I mean, you got to build it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, but at the end of it, I would rather take longer and achieve something that I'm super proud of than being the actual shill that I get jokingly. It's always joking.
It's fun to joke about. It's fun. It's a fun meme.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It's just memeing. Yeah, I mean and that's the thing is like you're just. I mean, if you end up in the position to get paid to do literally what you love from a hobby standpoint, and like. I know people can love being nuclear physicists, but like you always have that thing that you do on the side,
right?
And if you can really somehow turn that into a business or whatever like that, that's one of the dreams that you're told to chase, right? And to take it slow and deliberately and do it the right way, it takes time. And we are fortunate to kind of live in this time period where you can get paid just for art's sake, you can get paid for content's sake, and so that's beautiful. But there's also sort of like some responsibility that comes with that too, I think.
Totally. And man, that's not to malign sites that do like for example, Mini Wargaming is the big top dog when it comes to paywall content. They have the vault. It's just not what I want to do, and that's honestly like because then all of a sudden everything that they do has to be revolved around getting signups in the vault. Yeah. And that's fine. Like, I mean, even with my stuff, I want it to be about money because I want to do this full time, but I don't want the constant focus to be driving you to do this very specific action. I don't know. I'm open to like advertising and that kind of stuff. the guys who made God Tier or God Tear, the board game, asked me if I could do a review. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm happy to do that. Like, I'm not getting paid for it, but that kind of stuff. But in a matter of, I don't know, just as far as like a paywall stuff, it's just not what I want to do. And good.
No, I'm just saying same, just in agreement. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, people are telling me to get a Patreon. I think right now I've just used Twitch sort of as I started out as a Twitch, my internet career, I guess. Ignoring the blogging and Kotaku and stuff, I started streaming just on Twitch like 4 years ago or so. Made the partner push, so it's kind of what I'm familiar with. And so like in a very strict sense, you don't get my emojis unless you sub to me on Twitch here. But like, I mean, you're getting all of the RantCast. You know, you're gonna get all of my whatever I have to say and whatever I make like that. And I think that's where I've justified using Twitch as a business model for myself. Oh yeah. And actually, speaking of Twitch, you do some Twitch yourself.
I did for a while. So I had what is it called? Restream, where you can like send your live feed to Restream and they'll put it on YouTube and Twitch simultaneously. And so for a little while I was doing the Twitch thing. I actually did make the partner thing, and then Restream kind of crashed and I haven't tried it again since. I had to take it down from there and go just to YouTube to get my streams to work. So I have to just I'm actually do that this weekend now that I have a holiday weekend. Just take some time and figure out what's going on.
Well, it would finally give me someone to raid and stuff is all I'm saying. So like I miss
Right on. Right on.
Well, because like I still host like all my like dark like all my like Bloodborne and like the other people I was kind of coming up streaming with like that stuff with. So it's like but like I took like a month off. No, sorry, it was 3 months off from making my partner push, and lost all the progress. It was so like that grind is insanity because there's such an amount of saturation and content creation. I just think across the spectrum, like whether it's Age of Sigmar, I see a new Age of Sigmar podcast every day, and I'm like, wait, am I one of the like wily upstarts now? Like I'm just like, oh no. But like I mean there's it's saturation and you know, the Randy Savage thing, like the cream theoretically will rise to the top, or you brute force it with money and you just like do giveaways constantly.
Yes.
You become a real shill, like a proper, like the good kind.
Exactly, yes. Like someone who really follows their dreams. That's awesome.
Yeah. So getting back here, we've talked about Kappa a couple times now. I think we might as well just talk about it now.
Yeah.
You actually did a video. I think this one went up like 3-4 days ago or so.
Yep. It was pretty recent.
Yeah, state like sort of like state of the channel type video, and you talked about Kappa there. Do you want to talk about what Kappa is for people who maybe don't know, watching or listening right now?
So it affects the whole world because YouTube's everywhere, and it's based in the U.S. and it's a U.S. law. So it stands for the oh my gosh, now I'm tired.
It's Children Online Privacy Act. I wrote it down even though I don't take show notes.
Could not think of the C. And children, of course, is the whole freaking point.
Right.
So basically, in 1998, we made a law that said you can't target children with ads and you can't track their data. This is all super broad terms. There's like minutia to it. If someone's a lawyer, they're like, that's not what it means. But so YouTube at the time said, oh, we're totally cool because they define children as being 13. You have to be 13 or older to make a YouTube account. We're totally clear. And the problem is that they knew, as anyone with half a brain cell knows, they'll use their parents' accounts, or they'll just lie and say, yeah, I'm 13, even though they're like 12 or 11 or whatever, you know? And so Google, who now owns YouTube, knew that. And so knew it was happening. And so just recently they got fined by the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, for, you know, basically doing the exact thing they shouldn't do, targeting kids, tracking their ads. They can look and see every video you watch on your Google account, or by extension your YouTube account, and know like, oh, okay, well, this guy who watches, you know, 12 hours of Peppa Pig a month is probably not, he's probably a child, right? Like we can figure that out.
Yeah, all the Minecraft, all the Minecrafters are either mythological creatures that don't exist, because I've never seen an adult really play Minecraft or children.
Yes. So that happened, and YouTube's response was to pay a huge to us nobodies, right? The everyman, but not so big to a multi-million-dollar corporation.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. And then the thing is how do we get COPPA compliant from there, right? How do we know when children are being targeted and that kind of stuff? And there was basically what their thing was, is they passed the buck on to us, the content creators, where we mark our content as safe for children or not safe for children, targeted towards children or not. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fundamentally what happened. And so every video you have has to be reviewed. Now, the reason that's a big deal is because if the FTC was to look at your video and they say, this looks like something it would be enticing to a kid, but you've said it's not for kids, that means it's tracking data and targeting ads, you, the content creator, can get fined.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why everybody had this like hellstorm about it. It was because if you get defining what your video is for wrong, you could get fined by the FTC, up to $42,000. And so people were really mad about that, obviously. So anyway, that's what COPPA is. I mean, that's fundamentally what it is. So go ahead, tell me your. I'm gonna talk for a while.
No. You came down with a pretty like level-headed, I think, response. Like, hey, this could potentially, hurt me in the long run, but when it gets right down to it, I'm just gonna go forward, and I don't see any reason to make a big stink of it on my channel, right?
Yeah, I mean, because it all depends on where your starting position is. So my starting position is we're trying to do a good thing for children, right? Like we live in an age where every ounce of their activity can be tracked and monitored and monetized by a large corporation.
Quick sidebar, I think it is terrifying. I've got 2 children.
Yes.
I like, it's always like, oh, in my day, like people like do the curmudgeon thing, which I do to an extent regarding how terrible their music is and how much like sweeter it is to own the physical book than a digital copy. But beyond my curmudgeonly tendencies in that respect, I think it is terrifying to be a child right now. When I depending on which school I went to at the time, it probably wouldn't surprise you to find out that I was a goth kid who got a little bullied, liking death and all that. Yeah. But my embarrassment lived in the moment, and then it was gone. If I was that age again right now, someone's got their phone out, my shame is eternal. They make a fucking WordPress page with YouTube videos and a techno remix of my shame. It is horrifying, I think, to be a child right now. And navigating this digital ocean is daunting. We who grew up alongside the technology sort of had the growing pains with it, to where I think we're a little bit more woke than maybe others. And children now are kind of growing up with it already existing in this current form. And that has its own learning curve. And so there is, to an extent, this need to protect them, right?
Yep.
Now, where my take comes in, and it's the same take I've had when I was pissed at the ESRB for imposing their fucking prudish values on my art. It's the same thing I have with various publishing agencies, which is you're so often doing it in the wrong way, with a heavy-handed blanket hammer just on a point that requires some finesse and nuance.
Totally. And that's the thing where the problem with COPPA and why people are freaking out is because the FTC has used very vague language. So the idea is someone in the chat said, just cuss a lot in your video and they'll know it's not for kids. That's not true. That's not how it works. Basically, they're going to look... Yeah, I know. You're not safe. God.
Damn it. That was my plan.
They're going to look at your videos and say, okay, they're talking about a board game. Because, remember, this isn't a government intern who doesn't know a damn thing about Warhammer. They're going to be like, okay, it's a board game. It's got elves. It's got dwarves. And it's got fantasy stuff. Does this, and the keyword they used is appeal to children. Appeal is the problematic word where... when I was 13, fuck yeah, dude, dragons and fire and
hell yeah,
I don't know, weird budding sexuality things with Slanesh and like all this kinds of stuff.
Right.
Where I was like, oh yeah, but of course, we know that like okay, well, it's not really like you don't fully understand the implications. The kits are very complicated for a young child. That's why they're rated 12 and up. Like, it's not necessarily for kids. It's not directed at kids. It's, young kids,
Right.
Below 13, that kind of stuff. So it's the problem of what does the word appeal mean in terms of, does it appeal to children? And so that's the core of the issue. And the thing is that I start from the position of like, we want to do something good. I would rather do something good and have it be messy for a little bit and have a better result than keep going as we were, which was children were getting targeted and their data was being recorded all the time by that kind of stuff. Now, the reaction that I see a lot is people saying like, well, screw YouTube for putting the burden on the content creators because we're the ones who will get sued. And the pushback that I've given to that, and I haven't heard a very good response, like a good counter, is if it's not the content creators, then it's YouTube who decides if something's for, like, ultimately they will get sued, right? The buck stops with YouTube if it's for kids or not. And the problem is I don't want
deep pockets, by the way, that in terms of like the legal concept.
Yeah,
they're not going to.
I mean, yeah, no, they can take a bajillion fines for the not being for kids. The 42,000 things is chump change.
Yeah,
but my point is, do you want your multi-million-dollar corporation that makes money with ads to decide what is appropriate for your children? And it's like, no. I don't even have kids, and I'm like, hell no,
no, and that's like. No, and this is, I mean, that's where I said, like, you had this really great take, so I'm happy you kind of expounded upon it here, which is, like, putting it kind of should be on the content creators. I mean, you're cognizant when you become a content creator of, and this is something I mentioned earlier, is, like, you at some point become cognizant that you have a responsibility in some respect. Whether that... It doesn't... This isn't, like, Peter Parker levels of responsibility, but, like, you have some accountability for the things you say on the freaking internet. In a very micro sense, having a responsibility could be, if I don't conduct myself a certain way, then I won't keep getting follows. Like, that's becomes a responsibility. Whereas, like, if you don't give a crap about any of that, you throw out the video, well, now the responsibility maybe lessens some. But once you become a quote-unquote content creator, someone who's going to make more than one video, continue to do that, you become more and more cognizant of this fact. And, I mean, early on, when I realized, like, I went from no subs to, like, 200 subs. And I'm like, like, what happens if I start to get monetized? I swear a ton. Yep. I have some really off-color humor sometimes.
Yep.
Like,
it feels like your words have more weight all of a sudden. Yeah, people start listening.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, like, I haven't done one of my truly spicy takes in a while, but, like, every now and then, like, they come out, and it's like, oh no, like, what happens when I get monetized? Am I, what do I have to do now? And so, like, then Kappa had this change to YouTube happened within the time period as you mentioned, like, where are you at in your, like, in this, like, that's relevant. I'm in the growth period trying to hit monetization. And, I already made the decision early on that I'm not going to be E for everyone content. I'm going to maintain my, Twitch solves it really cleanly. I click a little button that says I make mature content, and then you get that little thing that says mature audiences only. Every time you log into my...
And fundamentally, isn't it so funny that, like, people are freaking out, but it's like, if that just happened from the beginning, nobody would bat an eye. But it's because YouTube, before they were owned by Google, said, oh, it's fine, we can't have an account unless you're 13. Like, that shrugging off is what's causing all of this now. Whereas if we had just, if every time I load a video it says, rate M for mature, I would just click yes. I don't cuss, I don't care, but it's not for kids. Like, it's not my target. So all of a sudden that doesn't matter.
Right. And going forward, I'm just going to stay the course. I find it convenient now that I have a little button that says my show's not for kids, which I didn't have before, actually, when I was uploading my swearing profusely videos before. And I'm just like, well, what does this mean for monetization and all that? And I'm like, well, it just means you're going to grow slower because content, for the algorithm, don't swear, make your videos a certain length, so on and so forth. I'm like, I don't care about any of that. I'm not a...
Right.
And so, like, I didn't care about it before. I'm going to continue to not care about it. And,
I realized that I put a lot of eggs in the YouTube basket. And so that's why I have my awesome patrons on Patreon, because I was very clear with them, like, I want to move into a new place where I can get like a studio room, which is what I'm in right now. My wife has her little second studio over there.
Hell yeah.
Where it's like, I planned that at some point I would lose all my ad revenue. And that could be for a myriad of reasons. It could be like Games Workshop being like, hey, Doug, you're not allowed to use art anymore, and all my videos get demonetized. It could be a myriad. There's tons of reasons that videos get demonetized.
Yeah.
And so I don't lean on that income. And so I don't freak out about it. And so it's just like, it's just for such a good reason that it's just so worth the awkward transition period. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, like, the problem is, here's I'm trying to think of how to explain this. In my opinion, the FTC guy yelling in the microphone, making it sound like we're coming for you, content creators who are targeting children. Like, the problem is that we all content creators we went like, oh shit, they're coming for me, bro. When it's actually like this very small demographic of people that they are actually trying to target, right?
It's the Pokemon card QVC card code guys that really specifically, there's a content creator out there,
or people who, there are many videos of men who have pedophilic tendencies, we'll say that, and make content for kids, but it's in this weird guise that they shouldn't be doing this. There's a myriad of things. I don't think we're the target of it. And coincide, politicians aside, I do believe that the world is full of reasonable people, and so when they come to your channel, I don't know, any reasonable person will be like, oh, is Mephisto for kids? And then you're like, fuck Nagash, fuck Sigmar. It's like, nope, I'm gonna say no to that one. You know what I mean? Like, it's I think it's partially because we're gamers, where we're like, okay, the rule is if it appeals to kids, and you're like, well, what appeals to kids? All of a sudden it's quote unquote game breaking in your brain. But it's like, no, I mean, it's just they're gonna watch it and be like, no, I don't think it's for kids.
That's a fantastic appeals to in legalese, in terms of the American legal system, we use the word reasonable a lot. Would a reasonable person believe that this is reasonable, is usually like how you see it. And I think a reasonable person is gonna, if it does end up on a court side of things, they're gonna go, reasonably speaking, even though they're talking about toys, they're dropping 30 F-bombs, and he just made a Dostoevsky reference. I don't think it's for kids.
No, and to that point, there are industries like the guys who review toys and collectibles and antiques that definitely, I think, have more reason to freak out.
Yes.
100%. I just don't think that we are. And not that those people are invalid, they absolutely are. I did my American duty and wrote my congressman, and I filled out a bunch of petitions, not petitions to stop COPPA, but for clarification, because appealing to kids is not a legal thing. Like, it's not, it's just subjective. And so for that kind of clarification, that kind of stuff. But honestly, beyond that, I'm just like, what else can you do? What are you going to do, sit around and freak out until January? No, just take a breath.
I think it'll be fine. I mean, I've got a spiritual qualm with people who try to impose their prudish values on my children, but it should be my job to make sure my kids aren't watching shit on YouTube that's not okay for them. And fuck you, government. But there's also the other thing is that I am a reasonable adult, and other children aren't raised by reasonable adults. So why do we have seatbelt laws? Not because I personally don't put my kids in seatbelts, but because there's some freaking insert American stereotype. It probably involves a pickup truck and some missing teeth that don't. And those children can't regulate themselves yet. They don't even have legal consent in the legal terms. And I understand wanting to make rules, but then I also, like I said, I have that fuck you, man. I'm gonna don't censor me, man.
And I do too, where it's just okay, so I choose not to cuss because honestly my core demographic is men who the reason I don't cuss right on my own channel is because I want something where a grown man can be painting and building Warhammer stuff, and his kids are around, and he can just play it on the computer and know that there's not going to be something he doesn't want his kids to hear. Like, that's it. But it's for adults.
Right.
So it falls in this weird category where it's like safe for kids, but not for kids. And you're like, eh.
See, you've thought about it, actually, which is really cool. Like, you've really thought about it, where I was, like, thinking about it, like, thinking of being a late night show and, like, coming in it at that and I know 7:30 is not late, but usually by the time people filter in, it's a little bit later. They listen to it after work. They're paying, maybe after dinner is when the YouTube thing goes live, because I put that up a little bit later. Like, it's like, I've thought about it from a different angle. And, don't turn Mephisto on in front of your kids, probably adults, because I do swear an awful lot.
And vaccinate them.
And I hadn't thought about that personally.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I only thought about it because I got, like, there was one weird week where I got 4 emails from people saying, thank you for that. Or, like, I only listen to your show when I commute and my kids are in the back playing with toys and I have, like, the phone plugged into the audio system of my minivan. And I was like, cool. Like, this is for you.
Yeah, this is for you. Yeah, but, like, I listen to, like, rock and roll around my kids and Wu-Tang Clan and stuff, too. But that's because, like, I have but I also try not to swear around them. And my kids correct my language. They're like, Daddy, that was a bad word. And I'm like, when you're older, I'll give you the speech about how there is no such thing as bad words, only bad context. The English major coming out where I'm like, what's the context?
And that's the thing. Like, people, I think, wrongfully assume that because I don't cuss that, like, I was raised in a household that we don't. I was like, no, man. Like, we used to joke that our family crest is just the middle finger, like in stained glass on a boarded up church.
Yeah, I listen wherever I want, but that's because my kid is my dog. Aww. Fur pets.
Yeah, no, I came from a very rough background, but at the same time, it's just like, but I want, like you said, I just thought about it. I just want good things for specific people who, like, or in a situation where it's like, I don't want you to feel like you can't listen to Warhammer stuff because you got kids. That sucks. Like,
yeah, I mean, the kids are already, like, ruining your enjoyment of the hobby most of the time.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're hobby killers. You think you're painting dryad bark and it's like some kid's poop that's on your hand and you're like, oh god.
Yeah, oh man, they're dumping your paints, they're breaking your Nagash.
Yep.
At least let me listen to my episode of somebody talking about Warhammer. Yeah, no, it's a really good point. It's a really solid thing. And if I were a more responsible person, I would have thought about it, but I didn't.
but that's the thing, is there's no shame. Like, I think you should lean into your audience. And for me, like, because I am somebody who can turn off the cussing, like, on a whim.
I try.
I like, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. This is the skill I got. This is the skill I'm gonna use.
Yep.
Like,
yep. No, chat here just once more calling you out for not liking dogs. So, AOS Coach, I listen to whatever I want, but that's because my kid is a dog, which we know Doug doesn't like because he doesn't feature dogs on his channel.
Exactly. I have had my cat on the camera before, so that counts.
So you're pro cat, but anti-dog.
I am pro cat.
Yeah. Vaccinate your kids, or Nagash will steal their souls.
That's the real crux.
Well, man, did I just become an anti-vaxxer? Because I do want Nagash to win. But that's fiction. In reality, vaccinate your goddamn children. Are you suggesting that kids aren't all right? Nice reference to Offspring there, Acrylic. And Soren, how's it going, my dude? Thanks for showing up. Yeah. I love my kids, all 5 of them, but I may be a bit mad as well. I think being a parent, speaking to now just the rest of you who aren't parents can, like, go get a drink of water real quick while I talk to the parents in the audience.
Cool.
We're angry a lot. Like, it's just par for the course, I think. And part of it is just, like, mitigating it and figuring out how to, like, do the best thing you can, right? Like, but yeah, you're mad about stuff with kids, It happens. I've told this story before, but my daughter Lily, she broke my Nagash. Like, I got home from a tournament weekend, and she broke it. And, like, I actually, like, Molly, her mother, aka Lulu, she like diffused the situation before I even got into it. Like, because if I had, like, gone right from whatever energy level I was at, which probably wasn't, like, angry, but it probably had like a manic energy to it. You know, like I was probably, if I was playing a video game, I'm like in and I've got the energy that, you know, the levels.
Amped up.
Yeah, I'm amped up. So like I go downstairs and she's like, Andrew, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then like I see the Nagash thing. I wonder if I would have responded to that differently if she didn't bring me down to neutral first. Because the way I responded in that situation was like Broken Nagash was going, oh, she just wanted to play with Nagash because she sees Daddy play with Nagash, and that makes sense. And so like I found it adorable rather than like horrible, you know. And
yeah. No, and when I mean like kids are bad, like I don't have children, but I volunteer with youth. And I used to work at a daycare. Yeah, where it's just like, you know, the reason I care about Kappa is because they are extremely valuable and they're awesome, and I want to protect them from bad things like mega corporations. Like they're not well, I'm trying to think how to word this. They're a burden that just people love. Like,
well,
I don't know.
It's a responsibility, but there's so
like burden isn't a bad word. That's what I'm trying to say. Like it is a lot of responsibility, and you have to think about the world differently and your time differently. But they're not in a negative sense. I don't know. So I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone thought. Even though you probably haven't featured kids on your show, and we know anything that you don't feature on your show, because
I hate them.
Yeah, but like you, but there's a lot of levity, I think, in how you've thought about this Kappa thing. So yeah, Kappa. I guess just like a real quick summarization is I don't think the sky is falling on this.
No,
personally. I've got my knee jerk fuck the man like internal reaction, but then they're like, oh no, who's the man? You're the man when it comes to like who decides what like your content. And I'm like that nod was very, I think, important. There is a way worse case scenario, I think, and they didn't get the worst case scenario. So
I would agree with that. I think that's a good way of saying it, where you know, so I have a very morbid sense of humor where it's like, as we inch further to dystopia, this might not be the worst step. This is like a half step versus like a skip and a leap, which I'm okay with.
Oh man, we're bounding towards that full on like dystopian hellscape future. Like,
so
man, I'm upset that that Blade Runner was so wrong. I thought we weren't gonna get dystopia. I thought we were gonna get like it's as crappy as it looks as crappy as it should. You know, and everyone knows, like, no, like, we're just bounding towards, like, the thought-controlled dystopian iMac hellscape where, like, robots are all round and featureless and fucking lame instead of, like, made out of diesel car engines and sweet.
I know. Yeah. I wanted Bender, but I got the Apple robot from Wall-E. I wanted the robot that drinks beer and farts fire and that kind of, or burps fire.
yeah, that's what I wanted, man. All right. Soren here. I have a question about the top 5 reasons Nagash and Cetra are secretly best friends. Can you explain this to me, Doug?
Okay, wait. I need to say that again.
I have a question about the top 5 reasons Nagash and Cetra are secretly best friends. Can you explain this to me?
Well, they go way back.
I think Soren is trolling, but go on if you can.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to do this. They go way back. They got a long history. Mm-hmm. They got a bone for each other. Heyo.
Hey.
They've been separated for a long time because Cetra was gone, and distance makes the heart grow fonder.
It's true.
They have similar taste in clothing.
Mm-hmm.
They both like the Egyptian thing going on.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say they both think very highly of themselves. That's why they bond.
Yeah, they could be like best friends. This is like the bro culture where they're both like just the pure ego spirals around each other, and like it creates like one omni bro out of like out of a gaggle of bros. Like,
yes,
so
the omni bro is fantastic.
Yeah. The cool hat game. Yeah, hat game on point for both of them. I'd also like to add a 6th thing, which is like Nagash and Cetra kind of needed each other, if you believe the retcon, to like exist as they have gone on to exist. Cetra doesn't get immortality unless the scientific mind behind immortality, Nagash, invents it. But Nagash needed Cetra's resources funneled into the death cult that he made in order to, like, you know, abduct a bunch of elves and steal barter magic from them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so like I think it's a code. There's a codependency to that relationship we don't often talk about.
If we're gonna go super tinfoil hat, it's like government and big pharma. Like, one needs the resources, the other needs the science to keep everybody in line.
Yeah. Actually, like I want to, for whatever reason, man, that just like dawned on me. I want to circle back to a point brought up in chat a little while ago, and something you were talking about there, which was like the year of destruction. Like,
oh yeah,
we wanted to have we want Archaon to like be the protagonist for a little while, and so on and so forth. And someone said, I missed who said it in chat, that like you can't have destruction be the protagonist because they're too one-dimensional. I actually have a rebuttal to that, and then if you want to talk and expand on that. Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men is a fantastic example of what happens when you have essentially a purely destructive force drive the plot. And like Jason, a pure destructive force. Like basically, if you look at destruction almost like tornadoes in that movie about tornadoes, what was it called? Tornado movie?
Twister?
Like, that's the one.
That's a deep cut, man. That's far back.
If you look at destruction and like characters that are destructive and so on and so forth as like almost a force of nature, and you make like a plot that kind of works around this epic storm. I think there was also a movie called Epic Storm. You could actually really drive a pretty solid plot, regardless of how one-dimensional you might perceive Gordrak to be, or whatever. Yeah. That being said, I think that it's a good opportunity to make Gordrak more than just a I punch stuff good idiot. And he could actually, because he's supposed to be ruthlessly cunning and have all these really great qualities. I mean, he's this guy who united a bunch of idiots who only want to punch stuff and really became a real force to be reckoned with. So I think there's a couple ways you go about it. I think easily you could drive the plot with like sort of a monster movie-esque approach, or monster movies and nature is trying to destroy the thing. Movies are about like they follow roughly the same beats, but like just treat it like a monster movie, and you can have some really compelling stories. Do you have anything then you'd like to say on?
Yeah, actually, I thank you. I do. Of course, many opinions.
Yeah.
No, I guess when I think about destruction being ascendant, I think about it in the bigger sense of like the realms themselves. So, for example, the forces of order want to tame everything, right? Everything has to be nice and safe for people to, their own survival, basically. Chaos wants to subjugate everything, control, infect, and poison, and all that kind of stuff. Whereas Nagash doesn't care about the realms at all because he just fucked them up by doing the big necroquake thing. Like he literally inverted the realm of death. And so when I think about destruction being ascendant, I don't think about it necessarily as like the specific armies uniting. The way I think about it is the realms fight back. Whereas I cannot be tamed, I cannot be subjugated, and you're screwing with the nature itself. And this is like the natural element of the environment pushing backwards, leveling everything, right?
So we get a little bit of the epic storm thing I was kind of talking about there too.
Like, yeah, I mean, fundamentally I'm talking, exactly. But it's just the idea of like, what does it look like when actually fights back? It's just you can have like god beasts and volcanoes erupt in the middle of cities and that kind of stuff, like really cool things that I don't know, and the destruction factions themselves are a piece of that, but not like Nagash level being the sole thing.
See, I like that though. Like you take a really like almost a philosophical destructive stance, and you drive the narrative that way. I agree with you. I think there's a really compelling way, and I hadn't even thought about the realms fighting back angle. So I think that both can be true. The nature destruction, monster movie style thing with that.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I think we were just agreeing heatedly there. We're saying the same thing.
Yeah. Just a couple different angles to like both champion the notion that destruction can make for a compelling driving force in a story. So that's just, I really wanted to I didn't want to let that opinion slip past me here. So I guess what I'm saying is you were wrong. Destruction would be sweet.
He's the beast. Yes.
Like I think no, I see. I think that the game of Age of Sigmar is better when Destruction's better, because they are kind of hashtag wild card. Like they're just and it makes things more interesting and fun when you have good Destruction rather than Jobber Destruction. Jobber Destruction is worst form of destruction.
Well, I was listening to, I don't know if you listen to any 40K stuff, but the Independent Characters is a 40K podcast. Talk about lore.
What's 40K?
Independent Characters, the podcast.
No, what's 40K?
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed it. But they had this cool thing that someone mentioned where in 40K, from the head guys who lead the podcast perspective, like there's three legs to a stool, and it's like the Imperium, Chaos, and Orcs, right? Because they're the wild card, exactly like you just said. Think about the coolest factions in AOS, and I'm just like, okay, so we have, like, in my opinion, like you have Stormcast and Cities of Sigmar kind of lumped together, and then just Destruction as a whole is like a very important part of that stool that keeps it all together. Where it's like, I don't know, at some point everything gets torn down, and it's just like a natural cycle. Like stuff gets torn down. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, like on the Orcs, they see you build civilization and they just want to smash it.
Exactly.
Despite you, because it's like it's ugly and dumb, and it's pretty cool. Like I think it's cool, and I like Destruction. When I was young, I just never got the bug to play Destruction armies before they were Destruction armies, quote unquote. And it never cycled back around. But like as I got older, I gained an appreciation, as one can, from being an outsider. Where you're just like, oh man, like this is great, and this makes stuff good. Like, so that's how I feel about that. Whereas Order, I just like, Order, what? Hate you. And then
I've played a few Order armies, and then I just kind of get bored. I don't want to be the good guy. I want to be the guy who goes in there and smashes stuff up.
Well, for me personally, it's about like it's the evil DM trope, or the evil DM persona that I personally possess. Like I've GM'd a long time, and to tell compelling stories, I need to have good bad guys in my stories for my players to really enjoy themselves. And so, like, as a DM, like, yeah, I do the support characters that have literal DM PCs that stay with the party and help, like, with stories and stuff like that for certain stretches of the game. But, like, it's the really awesome bad guys that you love to hate that make the games fun. And that actually, for me, ported into Age of Sigmar. Is like, I want to, like, for us, to enjoy the game with my opponents, I take on that, like, evil GM persona where, like I'm boastful and I'm trollish and I'm having a lot of fun. And then now I become the bad guy that you have to beat. I'm a wrestling heel, that we want to see the babyface beat. And I take on that role personally in my gaming style. And that's why, when we play Monopoly, I pretend I'm a slumlord.
That's awesome.
Like you,
I like how you role play a Milton Bradley game or Parker Brothers.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm the worst. When I'm when I play Clue, I'm I always got to be Professor Plum because he's a pimp. Everyone knows pimps wear purple, yo. Like,
when I play Sorry, I'm the one guy who's not sorry.
Mr. Meth is the Miz of AOS. You're probably not wrong, man. You're probably not wrong. Yeah, it's good bad guys make things fun, and so
totally, I agree.
And and I know that you don't do a lot, like, you don't really look at the game from a competitive side, but me, to even unlock the competitive chamber in my brain, I have to be playing a bad guy army, because then I'll want to beat you, as opposed to just like have just buy you beer forever, like then we don't even play the game anymore. We stop playing the game because we're getting along too well. Like I gotta have my heel persona.
Would you consider yourself a more competitive player or no?
I the way I often phrase it here on RantCast is that I don't hide my competitive lean. So I do have a competitive lean. I'm a big proponent for going to tournaments. But when I say go to tournaments, I talk a lot about the community aspect of the tournament. I think I've kind of discovered myself a little bit more in these last few months because I've had to talk through my own opinions out loud to others. And I think what I am is I'm a community first person, actually. And I think a lot of people say that, but we joke about you being a shill because you don't, bash GW. And then I think there's people out there that make a very good very good content off of taking GW down a peg. And the way I think of it is I'm kind of this man apart that just, you know what, like, you have your videos that say GW is the best, and you have your videos that say GW sucks, and I'm just going to be here in the middle saying, just don't mess with the community. The community's great. Let's go to tournaments. And, like, where I draw the line between both is when I think GW does something that exploits their community base, or when somebody who is anti-GW is being too negative to the community. Like, they're stirring up false controversy and stuff like that. So, like, I've begun to notice that about myself. So I say I've got my competitive lean. I don't hide it. I love going to tournaments. If I line up in a game against you with a win condition, I want to win that game. And I have a competitive background playing, like, shooters, MOBAs, fighter games, and competitive Magic the Gathering. So I had that. All that stuff's in me. But the more I settle into my journey in Age of Sigmar, the more I realize I'm community first. And that these things aren't mutually exclusive. You can love going to tournaments and want to win, but also tell me how sweet your one character is that you painted and what his personal backstory is that you wrote. And, you know, that's my jam, is the Venn diagram of the, like, I say the 3 spheres of Age of Sigmar. Where those overlap, I think, is where I have the most fun. Or then with the 4th sphere being probably community, I guess.
And I think it's important, like, so, like, on my channel, like, I don't talk about stuff that I don't like, but at the same time, if somebody comments on it, I don't censor people. Like, the only time I've ever had to censor things is when, if you attack another person, right? Like, I've had someone say, I hate GW for doing this, and that comment, I don't care about. But the guy who then responds to him of, like, you effing idiot, like, that's the one that I will. I'm like, no. Well, we don't need that.
I mean, attack opinions, don't attack people. I think that's the most simple way you can put it. You know, the ad hominem argument style that has become the main language of the internet is unnecessary. And you can make a meme of somebody in good fun, I think. Like, I've made a couple memes for folks in the community, and I have recently had one made of me, the Mr. Meth triggered, like, gif where it's just like a shaking.
I like it.
And that's fucking great. Like, I think that's in good fun. But, like, don't, when you're in the comment section, be like, that guy's an idiot. Like, and they're stupid for thinking that. And, like, that now you're going too far. Talk about their opinions, don't talk about the person. Don't attack the person. And then just kind of catching back up with chat here. See, AOS Coach, he loves Cities of Sigmar because he likes the massive underdog aspect to kind of counterpoint my wanting to be the villain. And then Soren here talking about painting with his kids and stuff. And so I do think that there's some benefits to the hobby and family and friendships and stuff like that when you can find those commonalities. So,
for sure.
So good on all y'all. So we'll just check there. Talk about. All right. We've kind of handled I think we've solved the COPPA issue for everyone on the internet. You don't need to talk about it anymore.
Nailed it.
Yep. We crushed that. And then we did talk about your channel a little bit and how, like, the meme culture and the humor and just, like, honestly the genuineness you address your community. You also said something I find really, really fantastic in, I think it's your intro video. You say that, like, you draw inspiration from your comments a lot. Do you have, like, that episode that that was, like, comment inspired? This was a comment on Twitter is what made this show happen too, so I find it really appropriate. Was there a comment on, like, a video where you're like, you went and you made another video and you're like, and that video inspired by the comment crushed it? Is there a standout episode that you did like that?
Oh man.
I'll put you on the spot here. You can see the gears turning.
Yeah. I mean, so, like, because it's gotten to the point where I get so many questions about things that it's hard to discern, like, a specific comment for things.
Right.
Let me see. So I think one of my favorite ones, honestly, and this is long before Legions of Nagash came out, was someone said, I really like the skeleton models. How do I build an army of skeletons? And that's all it was. It was just like, all I did was talk about the units, like the White King and that kind of stuff. And that was just for some reason it was one of the first videos where I connected with people in a way that they're like, oh, you actually like paid attention, and then the people started just picking it up and sharing stuff.
That sort of organic growth in the sort of discourse between creator and community, I think, is really something I thrive off of personally, and so I think that's what really stands out from, I think, your channel and why I really like it.
Thank you.
Not to keep flattering you, I'm gonna have to go and make a meme to immediately take the piss out of you right after this.
My wife humbles me regularly, so it's all good.
Yeah, Doug's an absolute legend. I agree. I guess, I mean, do you have that like aching opinion that you've just wanted to soapbox? Something did you want to drop a real quick F-bomb or anything like that before I move on to?
Okay. I do. I actually do. We're gonna rant about something random.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Yeah. All right. Here we go. This is the 2+ Tough Doug's takes over RantCast with a personal rant for
here we go.
Listening enjoyment. So,
the old world fantasy battle coming back announcement. I'm excited about it coming back. I'm cool with it. I did actually play fantasy battles for a little bit, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Really, it was cool stuff. The thing, so I'm very hyped about it. The thing that I don't like is the way that it was announced, which is no information whatsoever. And so if I had to like get on my soapbox and like say something to people, it is be super careful about who you listen to for the next 3 years, because it's 3 years, right? Yeah. Because it's going to be 3 years of wild speculation, people getting into arguments about stuff they don't know anything about, mm-hmm. and false rumors and all this garbage. And I can see that when the product comes out, people being upset or disappointed or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so my soapbox thing is saying, just be cool, just be chill, like be cool to others when it comes to how you talk about fantasy battles. And so like that, understanding that some people keep that, it's a very deep part of their lives that they cherish. Mm-hmm. And also not getting upset when things don't go your way or that kind of stuff. And so that's my biggest thing. It's just, they set themselves up for failure with that announcement, because it's 3 years of bullshit, like of people who don't know anything talking about it. And I could just, like, it's just one of those things where you see a car crash in slow motion, where you're just like, this is not going to end well for you, GW. Like, why?
Well, like, it's like the steamroller scene in Austin Powers, like, it's slowly, no,
yes, yeah,
get out the way, and he's just like, no, yeah, I mean, it's crazy, and then they do the long shot, and it's just like the fucking steamroller very slowly moving, yeah,
and so, yeah, and that's my biggest thing. It was just like, we can get very wrapped up on internet stuff, but it's like, just be kind to yourself and one another. If someone's being a total douche about like what stuff that you're excited about, unfollow them.
Yeah, just walk away.
And that includes me. Like, seriously, like if I ever at some point I'm like, Warhammer Fantasy Battle should have stayed dead because it sucks, unfollow me if that's something you like. Same thing goes for anything else. All these people who are going to be hopping on the rumor monger train, if there are particular, we'll say, internet blog content producers that may or may not have sharp ends on small parts in their name that totally shit on things that you love, don't click their articles.
yeah All right, fantastic. Yeah, I just to kind of to add to it. Oh man, well done, man. I gotta come with my spicy takes now. My guests are starting to make me look bad at my own game. It was a logo, and it was 3 years, and so that means that there's a lot of time to build expectation, and expectation is the mother of all letdown. If you build expectations, and you build into the rumor monger machine that's about to unfurl over the next 3 years, you're gonna have a like, you could build yourself a real mm-hmm. monster to overcome, and that would be the worst case scenario. So, tread lightly, I suppose. And personally, I had all my fun with the old world, and I'm happy for the new thing. And if it's a good game, I'll do what I do with all good games, which is I play good games. I'm a man of magnificent taste, after all. I guess, how did you That brings me to a question I've just never been aware of. How did you get into Age of Sigmar? You mentioned like you got in early when the getting was good on Age of Sigmar.
Unbelievable!
Unbelievable. Thank you so much for that follow there, Flukesy. Or Fluke Skywalker.
He's a good guy.
And earlier on, thank you so much, Soren, for all those gift subs. Everyone enjoy all your emotes. The Meph, Smug, Meph, what? They're all great. Frank there in the chat's the guy who designed them all. So thank you so much.
I love it.
But yeah, how did you get into Age of Sigmar from the from the old world? Were you an old world purist to begin with? Did you play when you were younger?
No.
Like a lot of people.
No.
No. Okay, so you got a kind of maybe a different origin story than some other folks.
Yeah, so I got out of college and I needed a hobby, and I remember that when I was a kid, I used to like building models. Mm-hmm. So I went to my local craft store, grabbed a World War II tank, and then as I was looking for tutorials on how to paint it, I stumbled upon a mini wargaming tutorial. They had a PDF thing that was like, here's how you paint models, and it had like weird kick-ass looking models in it, and I was like, what are these things? And so that's how I got introduced to wargaming in general. Mm-hmm. Started off with War Machine and Hordes with my group in Iowa, where I was me and my wife were living at that point. Mm-hmm. And then when I moved out to Seattle, I realized that I hate War Machine and Hordes. Really don't like it. Well, because here's the thing. So like my group in Iowa was awesome because they did a lot of hobby stuff and lots of fun games. There's like not competitive list. And then I moved out here and there's like no painted models. Half of them are only half built. Just a bunch of stuff that was just not fun, not community driven, which is funny because this is like the mecca of, because Privateer Press that makes that game is like 14 miles from my home.
Yeah.
So a little funny on that point. But
dropped a bit. We've all been there.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
Then I was at a game store and I saw a bunch of people playing Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and I was like, that looks cool. And so I immediately walked over and picked up a box, Island of Blood. And so I was like, what is this Fantasy Battles thing? This seems really cool. And then 2 weeks later, End Times Nagash dropped.
Awesome.
So I mean, I was there like, you know, I was like, okay, so I'm not super attached to the old world because I was so new. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I had models, so I was like, oh, these will just work in Fantasy or Age of Sigmar, whatever that is when it comes out. Well, so yeah, I was there. I was there for the dark times, but not necessarily the good times of Fantasy Battles.
Right on. Awesome. That's cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, yeah.
So, I guess that moves us on to the final sort of, we got some hot takes and questions here from the viewers.
All right.
I got to start with, I'm going to start with Soren since he's here in chat. He just did all those gift subs. He asked on Twitter, what is the lore that you're most anxious to get to next on your own channel?
Ooh.
Yeah. See, I just want to say as you formulate your opinion here, I'm very disappointed that everyone asked real questions on Twitter. These are not RantCast questions. These are like other content creator questions. So
these are 2+ tough questions.
Yeah, these are 2+ tough questions. What are these?
Okay, so lore that I'm most excited for, I'd probably honestly right now it is Archaon, because he is one of the main leaders that never, I feel like, got his background really filled in really well. Beyond that, it is the next chapter in kind of the story, like what happens after the Soul Wars, right? The Rumgate Wars ended, Soul Wars, what's next? Beyond that, like honestly, I don't really like come up with a lot of like theories about what's next or whatever. I'm just kind of along for the ride.
You're not gonna tinfoil hat anything?
No, I tend not to.
Yeah.
Unless it's government conspiracies and murder stories. True crime is my other thing that I love outside of AOS. So,
see, that actually, there was another question we got from Tim King Tristan, which is other passions outside of Age of Sigmar.
Oh yeah, true crime. What else? I've always had a weird fascination with RC helicopters. I don't own one. I used to, but
just like love RC helicopters. That's fun.
Yeah.
So you must watch last podcast or listen to last podcast on the left then, because they're they're like the gurus of true crime.
Yep.
Also, not safe for children content.
No. No, but they'll never be in danger of that.
No.
of being mistaken.
They've built an entire empire. Yeah, I mean, that's the only true crime one I listen to. But growing up in Wisconsin, you get into serial killers. It just happens. So you kind of get into true crime. Like
that's where one of the hosts is from, too. You're like, oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Ben Kissel's from Wisconsin.
Yep, Stevens Point.
Yep.
So, other passions besides those two. I mean, honestly, like, I enjoy making videos. Like, I did a few for my work. Like, it's becoming a hobby, but I'm not super great at it yet.
But you've got the passion, right? Like, you've got the passion to make the video. And it shows in, like, a lot. Your production is actually, like, pretty on point, too. With
oh, thank you.
Like, bumper music and your graphics and stuff. It's pretty good stuff. So, just kind of sticking with, because Tomb King Tristan asked a bunch of real questions rather than, like, fake ones. Favorite band, and then as a caveat, Chuck Moore added to that, favorite pop star.
Okay. I don't really follow specific bands. What I will say is that I am super into basic white girl music from the 90s and 2000s. Which includes Alanis Morissette, what's her bucket who sang Breathe.
Fantastic.
That's been my hot stuff recently that I've been really into. As far as pop, maybe Katy Perry.
Ooh.
T Swift is near. I will say that.
Okay. All right.
Because I was definitely listening to Shake It Off as I pulled into work today.
I can hear Chuck like unsubbing right now from 2+
I know.
on YouTube. Yeah. Like, Katy Perry is like his darker half though. Like he's got the like,
really?
He's got some Katy Perry memes that were gonna inspire one of his other armies. So,
I love it.
So this is Tristan trolling now. It looks like best science fair project that you've done. Have you done any science fair projects? I guess would be the prerequisite question to even be able to answer that one.
Oh yeah, so it was the summer after Titanic came out. And I did a diorama of, and I was super broke as fuck and I had no inspiration. So my mom finished watching Titanic and I built a Lego version of that little submersible with the cameras and junk that they sent down. And so basically it was a diorama of that Lego monstrosity hanging from a piece of string. And I was like, he's in the ocean looking for the Titanic. And
man, that's cool. Did you win?
I did not. No, I did because there was kids there who did actual work.
Oh man, that's fucking.
Turns out that does well.
Don't worry, I just made a space station out of Lego, and as a 14-year-old kid or something like that, it was not received the best by other folks. I guess who inspires you outside of AOS? This is also Tomb King Tristan again.
Who inspires me outside? Wait, who specifically?
Yeah. Is there a person that you draw inspiration from? You've got this chill demeanor. It's got to come from somewhere. Is there some sort of iconic?
I guess Bob Ross. It's probably the closest.
Hey, we talked about Bob Ross yesterday on RantCast too, so makes sense. Let's see.
Actually, yeah, I guess that is it. I don't know. I don't really think about having heroes or something like that. I did.
Yeah,
but I one of his quotes that I always loved was that art is a disciplined practice. Like if you're willing to practice anything, you can be good at it, and that's something I kind of stuck with me.
I think that's something I'm learning recently now. Fluke Skywalker asks in chat, "Who's your favorite Canadian?"
I'm just gonna name the first Canadian you can think of. Pete Rose. I think he's a hockey player.
W. Soren, what was the biggest failing of Stormcast Eternals for you? Ooh, that's going spicy.
Battalions.
When
I like to build an army, I like to do so with a very thematic use of battalions, because it's supposed to be this is a reflection of a story arc or a cool thing from the books. But with the Stormcast ones, they just kind of seem we have these models and they kind of just glue them together randomly in battalions. They're not flavorful really.
Mm-hmm.
I never liked that.
Yeah, it kind of fell down rather flat there. Well, Chuck Moore here again. Strength Hammer himself. He will be on RantCast Friday the 13th in December. Your dream hobby project army set in a realm, and how would you paint it?
Ooh.
I mean, you're gonna. I mean, so you sell your next army, and then you get to fund this project to, set an army via a theme in a realm. What would it be, and how would you do it?
Oh my goodness, I'd probably go a Maw Tribes army from Gurian.
Okay.
Because I want to have so basically the Stonehorns, whenever they eat something, they kind of take on some of the properties in their horns. So I want them to be very vibrant and full of life and that kind of stuff.
Oh, so that'd be really cool. So they have like leafage and stuff growing through their tufts of fur.
Just attack that kit with the Vines kit from G-Dubs.
Awesome. I think Gabe Huddlestone here is trolling with asking you if we have to tie you down and force you to play one army for an entire year, what would it be?
Right now, I don't know. I'm having an absolute blast with War Clans. It's weird. It's a book that I didn't expect to grip me. I was actually on the brink of selling that army. If you ever watched that video with me on Warhammer Weekly last, I was about to sell it. And then 2 days later, I got my book, and I was like, this is the greatest. And so I've been playing that quite a bit.
That's fun. Awesome. And then when's the next Making of a Beast Lord?
You're listening to it?
There you go.
I'm gonna claim that.
Yeah, we forgot to talk about Beasts of Chaos, but Beasts of Chaos are pretty great. I like them.
They
too.
are pretty cool.
They're my vacation army. I call it my mistress after death. I actually already incorporated that question into the show itself. So I guess so now we get to my questions that are actually fun because you guys phoned it in on Twitter with these real questions. So once and for all, I want you to draw a line in the sand. The community needs to know: are you a shill? Going on record.
I mean, I guess no. I mean, I've never asked anyone to buy anything. I don't suggest anything. And I shun away when people ask me how to spend their money, in terms of what should I buy next? I make it clear that I don't tell people what to buy. So I don't think so.
See, I will also, I can't put you on the spot like that without also myself falling on the sword. See, Mephisto is a shill. I would gladly advertise whatever you want right here on RantCast live, weekly, for a small fee. So just go ahead, and I'm throwing that out there. If you want me to sell Casper mattresses, Pepsi Cola, whatever it is, I'm open to it.
So if your question is if we would be, if you pay me enough, again, going back to the Charmin Ultra, if they came to me and were like, would you promote, we have a new 3-ply, I was like, oh god, yeah,
you'd become 3+ tough,
oh my gosh, yeah.
I guess 2+ tough, where does that come from? Because there's a 4chan meme, I believe, but where did you come up with 2+ tough?
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I kind of just pulled it out of my ass. I had some vague memory of an old RPG that I played at some point with friends. It was not really an RPG. We weren't really LARPing around with that, but where someone had a toughness roll, and I was like, oh, that's super fun. And so, yeah, it just came from basically kind of a conglomeration of having a toughness stat and then 2-up being the best that you can get in any of the games that we play.
See, that's really, I think that's actually cool. I like the organic, independent Inception sort of story tells, or origin stories. RantCast was also born rather organically, and it gained its name pretty straightforward because it's to be. I rant all the time. I have a rant cam. It's F1 on my keyboard for all my live streams, and I didn't ever think to incorporate this ranting quality into a thing until it just happened. So
yeah.
So that's awesome. Now here's the question. I think this is the real. This is the hottest. This is the spiciest of takes. The question we must know. So when you fight Rob the Honest Wargamer Symes,
yes,
in person for real, physically,
absolutely.
Okay, so you would do this. And we could set it up for charity or something, or for Charmin. Who knows? We get sponsors in on it. I guess who would win the fight? Would we televise it? And what venue? What type of fight would you want it to be? Because I saw some, like he fights with sticks. I guess he used to. Would you want to do like a weapon style fighting? Would you want the fake armor and the foam weapon? Like what type of fight should it be? And who would win it?
Well, he suggested naked jelly wrestling.
Yeah, but I don't think they're. Are they ready for the jelly? Are they ready for Doug the Smuckers Griggs?
Yeah, no, I don't know if anyone's truly ready for that. Let's see. I'm gonna say
because
no.
See, Rob is a trained fighter. Like he used to fight apparently, but like.
Oh really?
But I don't know if he's kept up with it or not. And you look pretty scrappy to me, so I think you'd be evenly matched. Like he's.
I think scrappy is probably the right word. It just means I throw my weight at people. Well, I didn't know he was a fighter. This changes everything. I wanted an easy one that I could win. I was thinking I was just picking a fight with some random Englishman. I could just go out there and use his legs. I pick him up by the legs and use him as a windmill and just spin him around. Take out the rest of his crew with him.
Oh, man.
I'm going to get Twitter tweets about that one.
You're going to get tweets. You're getting all the tweets. All right.
I know.
Yeah, that was... I don't know.
I'm just going to say wrestling contest. That's all I got.
Okay, so you got to go wrestling and then a wrestling contest. I think I favor your odds in the wrestling contest.
Yeah, because that's where the weight matters. Just keep your center of gravity down low.
Right. All right. Pardon me. All right. So that's it for my rapid fire questions from strangers from the internet. Strange questions from strangers on the internet. Do you have anything you want to shout out? All the shameless self-promotion, go ahead. I think we've been pretty good at letting you all know that this is Doug from 2 Plus Tough, and you should go subscribe to his channel over on YouTube. But anything else you'd like to shout out or double down on?
I promised I would bring it up if there was an opportunity, but Davis, who was in the chat before with AOS Reminders, he does a great job. If you want to get better at the game, it helps you learn your list. Basically, it gives you all the rules by phase for every army, and you can just remember everything. And I think that's a really cool thing. I'm gonna do a video about it here pretty soon. But beyond that, just be excited for lore and. I don't know, wherever GW takes us.
Right
Wild ride.
And then Acrylic Chemist here is like, can it be Beasts of Chaos time now? Do you have any we might just have to like do a to be continued on Beasts of Chaos.
Okay.
Unless you've got something to say.
I like them and their theme. I wish that they had more punch.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
So if I can, I'll go a little bit. I'll talk a little bit about Beasts of Chaos because I feel like I haven't talked about them in a long time. So Beasts of Chaos, where I've kind of ended my journey at. It's on standby currently, but I've been playing a lot with All Herd and Desolating Beast Herd. I at the beginning of the year used a bunch of my Beasts of Chaos models to proxy as Slanesh. I played a Depraved Drove list once. Tabled this poor Skaven player at the top of turn 2 at the LGS, and I like backed away from the table with my hands up as if I had done something wrong and I was about to be arrested. I didn't like that. It wasn't... Mephisto may be a man of hot takes, but he is also a man of his word. So like I kind of walked away from that table and I went, okay, if I'm going to stick with Beasts of Chaos, part of the reason I want to play Beasts of Chaos is because like going forward, I felt like I could hot swap them between whichever Chaos God was strongest at the time to allow me to have an army that's always competitive, unlike my Legions of Nagash army, which like just got like hit over the head with a steel chair and like knocked out on the apron. Luckily they weren't out the fight. They came back. It wasn't a concussion, and now Nagash is in OBR and like everything's great again. But like I recognize that, hey man, it's gonna kind of suck the way the meta rotates, the way the wheel keeps turning. It would be nice to have this like modular army, and Beasts of Chaos is they're like a little puzzle to put together in terms of list building.
They are.
the thing is like they don't play the game straight. They play it backwards. You don't have traditional hammers and anvils the way you usually think of them. Your highest quality unit is most certainly Zangor Enlighten on discs, even after the points adjustment. But it just when I play Beasts of Chaos, I actually want to play the beasts and not stupid birds. And so that's a me thing, that's not a them thing. But like if you're not using Zangor Enlighten on disc, and you're not using like a 20 block or 30 block of Zangor as your traditional hammer, or as your traditional anvil to hold a back objective or something, you're just playing the game differently. Now, I did beat Slaanesh with them, so I don't know what you guys are talking about. Slaanesh is garbage, #getgood. And by extension, I actually beat both the hosts of, I'm not sure if you know this, I have beaten the hosts of Warhammer Weekly, so I think, using some Age of Sigmar logic, that they are now a subsidiary of RantCast Incorporated. Because
if you want scrubs on your team that bad, you can, you know.
I think I officially own them now. Like Haywo and I have to like divvy them up because it was a doubles match, and he was a part of that too, with his Beastclaw Raiders, by the way. So like the thing is
how
was
you saying they're bad if you beat those guys?
Well, I mean, we played a super cagey game, and if it goes
at him,
at him. Well, and doubles is a different animal.
No, it is. I'm totally joking.
Yeah. So we but like the thing is you're playing Beast of Chaos super cagey, and you're playing the game kind of backwards. You can't run your best shit forward and just fight people and out quality people down for the most part. You just don't do that. You gotta steal wins. You gotta tie people up. You gotta like trap and wrap them and then just like summon spam the board edges and just make them constantly make bad decisions by putting putting a bunch of Ungors over in that corner by that one objective. And like you know that they can't hold it, but now you've wasted your opponent's time because they have to run across the table and go deal with that, or just let you score it for the rest of the game. Like you just have to play really, really cagey with Beasts of Chaos, which is honestly a lot of fun. It really like it engages your brain in a fun and meaningful manner. The thing is, I still feel that like as the dust begins to settle on everybody getting their new tomes, I think Beasts of Chaos are kind of, you know, there are winners and losers of Age of Sigmar 2.0, and I think they've kind of ended up in the loser side of things. They might, the longer the edition goes on, become the new Slaves to Darkness, and that they just underperform a lot. That being said, I think there's a lot of gold in that army. The main thing is Ungor Raiders are great, and they're just not being utilized right now. And when I say that, the shooting meta didn't come back forever for a very specific reason, because it's not just that shooting armies like Kharadron Overlords got nerfed, and Clowncar should have been nerfed, but there are other things in the game of Age of Sigmar. There's more terrain on the table than there's ever been. You have Lookout Sir, and then just the quality trades aspect of a shooting unit. It's difficult to get quality trades with your points and your values. Yeah. So, like, but Ungor Raiders are a threat of force. Everything they do is on their war scroll and in their allegiance abilities. It's all there, and so they have multiple problems for your opponent to solve, because you can outflank them because they're Brayherd. You can scout move them, and 4s and 4s, one shot, no rend until you get your Tendrils of Atrophy off, so now you got 4s and 4s, rend 1, damage 1, rerolling 1s and rerolling 2s, and exploding 6s because you're in Desolating Beast Herd. Now you're starting to actually cook with gas. And so I think running Desolating Beast Herd and then running like 2 big blocks, 2 fatty blocks of Ungor Raiders is just, I think it's the way that people need to start playing that army. And then you've got a threat of force of like, here's 40 Ungor Raiders or 30 Ungor Raiders, seasoned to taste, that I'm gonna put down in your corner if you don't screen it. And then if they do screen it, now you're gonna see the center of the board, and my run and charge Bestigors are gonna run up the middle and take over the board. So like the way you play the army is you force people to make bad decisions. So from a playing standpoint, I think they play really cagey and it's really, really fun. The thing is they lack a proper monster, they lack a proper holder of an artifact. and again, they lack a traditional like anvil in any real sense. You know, it's not 10, 20 Ossiarch Bone Reaper Mortec Guard. This is not, like
Right.
or 40 skeletons for 280 points. 40 skeletons is a proper anvil if supported by a single necromancer, right? Like
Totally.
300-point block, boom, done, fixed. Like there's you just don't have that in the army. So like it's something you got to be aware of, and when you become aware of it, what you begin to realize is like it's not about holding a point with an anvil. It's about trading positions. It's about swapping positions with your opponent and like messing up their plan. And they have a lot of tools to do that. So if you want to play KG, you want to like get in your opponent's head, and you want to like basically play poker while playing Age of Sigmar, you play Beast of Chaos. You're playing poker. Yeah. You're playing poker while playing, because everything on your war scrolls for the quality units has the tools to do multiple things. They just can't ever be an anvil. Plus you're one of the last true 1-drop armies in the game. And unlike Ossiarch Bone Reapers, you always find that you can throw in the good stuff that you want, and then just like, oh, I still have 200 points left over. I still have 400 points left over. So you have that's a really strong advantage. I think you still run probably a 6-pack of Enlightened on discs plus a Zangor Shaman, because Zangor Shaman is just a quality piece. It's the delivery system for your Wildfire Taurus, because he can just he has that once per game get the Wildfire Taurus down the ability. That's all it's there for. Plus he's 16-inch flying, so he's gonna be where that Wildfire Taurus needs to be. So you've got tools. That said, I think they play really good against Cities of Sigmar right now.
Really?
I think you've got the silver bullet, because you can deploy half your army, all your quality pieces, in ambush. And if you're using Ungor Raiders, you've got 18 inches of threat, about 24 inches of threat off the board edge, because you deploy within 6 of the board edge. They're 25 mil bases. It's really easy to fit Ungor Raiders, and Cities of Sigmar struggles with having tons of bodies if they're doing the tricks they want to do to win the game. So, like, go ahead and shoot my fucking Ungors. I don't give a shit. They're, like, I'm actually mad that you kill my Ungors, because I was about to kill them by burning them on the stone.
Exactly, yes.
And anything else that you're going to try to, like, commit to, like, fighting, I'm either going to trap, or I'm just going to, like, trade places with you, and you're not going to be able to swap back. And I will be able to. So, like, I think they match up really well, and I think the amount of shooting you can bring with Desolating Beast Herd Ungor Raiders is adequate to take out their important pieces. And if you have that threat-seeking missile of some Enlightened on disc, they're going to be able to melee down something else of value, a value target. So, and Wildfire Taurus is just, it's always fun. Every time I'm casting it, it's like I've like pulled the pin on a grenade and thrown it across the table. It's great. I'll deploy it in the middle of the board, even though I have nothing to hit, so that if my opponent charges me and then like is trying to play for the double, I'm like, go ahead, take the double. Like I'm gonna, come on, do it. Like, what? I'm right here. What are you waiting for? Like, yeah. So like, I'm just, you're Arnold in the Predator. You just fucking throw the Wildfire Taurus out, even though it can't hit anything, right in front of your like chaff and stuff. And then like they're gonna take priority, because it's still more valuable to take the priority. But now you're gonna like take the value out of taking priority away from them and be able to react, which is, you've got all the tools to react in your army. Double battalions are fun with the army, because then you can run Knowing Eye and Aether Quartz Brooch and be all herd, and you can turn one a Chimera. And turn one Chimeras are a lot of fun.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, that's awesome.
So like, I like that list. That's a lot of fun. And then from a fluff standpoint, I love that Beasts of Chaos are fucking anarchists. They hate you, and they want you to know it, and they don't give a fuck about anybody. They even think people who actively worship chaos gods are pansies, because like, you should just like take power and kick ass. And so why
do you need them? Why do you need those guys?
Yeah, you don't need the gods. Like, they already took your souls. Why would you freaking pray to them and crap? So I guess from a lore standpoint, there has been some inconsistencies in Beasts of Chaos lore. Can you sort that out once and for all for me? Because I'm like the tone.
Sure.
Did you do a tome review? I haven't checked it yet. Maybe
I
I'll just
did.
go
Yeah,
watch,
I did.
I'll just
I
go
did a
watch
Beast of Chaos week.
I'll just go.
So
do
what was the question?
Just like, are they the original children of Chaos Gods? Because like the Mortal Realm stuff makes it sound like they were just there when people showed up to the Mortal Realms.
They kind of were, yeah.
Or did they mutate from humans like we see in some of the old world stuff? Like, what is it?
So the Beast of Chaos book, I think, does an incredible job of like, you'll see it in other battle tomes where they kind of have like theories about origins or mysteries, that kind of stuff. But the Beast of Chaos book, I think, did it best, where there's like a page where there's like 3 distinct like schools of thought. And so there's not a definitive answer, but the schools of thought are like humans set up near some tear into the realm of chaos, and they got mutated, and it literally spawned like a entire race of half man, half beast things. One of them was that there was like a alpha progenitor or something like that, where like, you know, this one creature was blessed by the chaos gods, and all of a sudden he became a beastman. And then another one is my favorite was that like some hippies in Hish are like all super psyched out, think that it's like a very esoteric thing that like they are like the yin to nature's yang kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So like because there is order, there is also beasts of chaos. So to tear it down.
Yeah.
So there's simply there isn't a definitive answer. They don't know.
But they don't know. I kind of like it that way. I just like.
Yeah, no, me too.
I just like that they're like Rao fight the power. Like they're great. So I like them, and the more I spent time with the battle tome with Beasts of Chaos, the more I fell in love with them. But it's like it is a little. There's a lot of hobby fun to be had. The 2 Cygor kits I have are single-handedly taking care of all the basic material for my Ossiarch Bone Reapers. They come with like 50 skulls.
They do.
That's
indeed. Yeah.
I like one of them, it's like 50. Like I have like 100 skulls from my Cygors that I never put on the Cygors that I'm just gonna put on my Ossiarch Bone Reaper basis. So spiritually, my Beast of Chaos will always be with me.
That's awesome.
Oh, and also the Cygorian model, the one that you just like, it's so awesome and so terrible. So like, it's the best model to keep spiritually with me, which is the Cygor, because it's great. It looks great. It should be great. It's just unfortunate.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Acrylic Chemist. So Doug fights Rob, and then we've been having a banter here. AOS Coach and me. Apparently AOS Coach and I got to fight. So we're gonna have we'll have a proper card for when this wrestling bout happens.
I don't know, man. The idea of Rob being a former fighter scares me, but then I don't want to fight an Australian.
Well, yeah, as Cygor Keeper of Secrets was one of the things I was going to do when I was thinking about running as Depraved Drove, before I had my epiphany that if I'm going to run Beast of Chaos, I'm going to do it honest as Beast of Chaos. Which is where, like, Desolating Beast Herd. I'm not saying don't run, like, Depraved Drove or, like, Brass Despoilers, because I think Brass Despoilers have some legs in your army, too. Like, but if you're going to do it, like, stay Beast of Chaos Allegiance is, I guess, what I'm saying. Because there's some fun hobby opportunities to, like, God mark your stuff. But then, like, once you, like, go to the dark side and you start running as Khorne or you start running as some other stuff, it's less, Maph would need to be a threat to make it a fight. Coach, I have wrestling experience. I think of the 2 of us, I got you, dog. And I think we both got the gift of gab, so our promo game might be pretty strong.
Yeah.
or here we go, plot twist: Maph, Doug, and Coach versus England. See, the one I wouldn't want to fight is actually Nathan Prescott. I think he's got the look of a killer. Like, he's like got that, like, rugby build, you know? And I'm like that guy, he's the kind of guy, like, I feel like him and one of our local player, Mark Ramchek, he's actually, like, just this fantastic, he's everyone's AOS dad in the area. He helps with he'll help you with the event or help you get to an event. You know, he's just always a really nice guy, but I'm like, that guy's got, like, he's got a darker half, like, in there. Like, there's like I feel like there's, like, I like talk to Mark, I'm like, this is the kind of guy where if, like, you step to his family, he'd just, like, break your neck like Leon the Professional. So, so, like, those are the 2 guys I wouldn't fight in the Age of Sigmar community. I like my chances against most other people. And not that I think I'll win. I think I could do some damage against most AOS fighters.
I'm not a fighter. I'm a talker. So like my fights would just be me like bear hugging somebody and then like jumping on the floor, crushing them. That's about it. That's my move. That's my one move.
That's your one move. It's a good one move though. I mean, if you gotta have one move.
And then, all that Taco Bell was for that exact reason. Is just my self-defense.
Yeah. Yeah, and AOS coach here talking about the colonies revolting and we need to throw Rob's tea in the river. I like this. Acrylic Chemist, I'm not going to change your mind because that is a good way to play it. Taking the brass despoilers in Blades of Corn solves one of the problems of Corn, which is they don't have quality bodies beyond their heroes. And Beasts of Chaos don't really have quality heroes for the most part. Like they have their heroes are very good role players, but there's not like just a hero where you're like, this hero makes this army.
Agreed.
Like, I love Great Bray Shamans. They're great for 100 points, but they're a 100-point foot hero. It's dead. They cast the Wildfire Taurus. They burn some people on the Herdstone, and then they're dead. Like, there's no. Whereas, like, there are some really good hero pieces and monster pieces in Corn. So I think running them I can't change your mind, Acrylic, because I agree with you that running them in Corn and doing some double battalion tricks, like pick up your Gore Pilgrims along with them, is really good. Oh, Grashrak is awesome, by the way, Nosh. Like, Grashrak is great. He solves one of the problems of a Great Bray Shaman, but he's named, so he can't, like, hold the eye, and he doesn't count in your force chart when you make him the general for being a quote-unquote Great Bray Shaman to unlock your good battle line, which are Bestigors. So, like, he has, like, a slight drawback, but the fact that he has a retinue with literal retinue rules is a huge bonus. And every game, you just have 5 extra idiot bodies that you don't care about to screen with or throw on the Herdstone. It's great. Yep. They're great. A Grashrak, or a pimp named Grashrak, as I like to call him, is pretty awesome. So, but yeah, Grashrak is great. The thing that's really I played him in doubles, and he was a absolute baller all weekend long, because the way his buff spell works is he does a D3 mortals, and then you just have +1 to hit the thing in melee. It doesn't look at keywords. It doesn't care. So, like, I was just enabling Haywo's Stonehorn, just like hit on 2s with even your crappy attacks. Like, it was great. Yeah. Like, it was great. It was fucking great. So Grashrak is a huge winner. The army doesn't have bonuses to cast, really, and that becomes more of a liability with something like Cities of Sigmar sticking around. The fact that Nagash is gonna be on the table again because Ossiarch Bone Reapers are good enablers for him, and you have people like me who fucking love the model, so I'm gonna play it anyway. Like, so those make things like Grashrak seem less awesome because he might not really be resolving that spell. But here's the thing: is he fucking doesn't have to be near your good Unbinder because he's a fucking Bray Herd. So fuck your good Unbinder. I'm over on that side of the table doing good shit.
Exactly.
So there, I got you your Beast of Chaos rant in, Acrylic Chemist, and I can't change your mind on taking awesome Beast of Chaos models, the Bestigors, and Great Bray Shamans and stuff like that, and running it in Brass Despoilers, and then running it in Blades of Corn with, like, Gore Pilgrims and stuff. It's really fun. But you're not getting the full advantages of why Beast of Chaos beats you, which is to fuck with your head in deployment, and as the game progresses, with our better summoning than people realize.
There you go.
So, we're not Slanesh summoning, but, like, click like and subscribe, and then tune in next week to find out why our summoning's actually good. No. I mean, 10 Ungors for, like, 2 points, Primordial Call Point, is just, like, so annoying to constantly have to deal with for everybody. And if you're on All Herd, you're going to get your 2 Primordial Call Points for free every single turn. Because you're going to roll at least 1 on the D3. You're going to get your 1 from gaining a Primordial Call Point at the beginning of the turn, and then you're going to be able to convert your command point into 3. I think it's 3 for them. So you're going to get your 3 to summon them every single turn. And then you can go for, like, the home run swing of grabbing the chimeras early. So yeah, and so, like, if you don't want to play that way, Acrylic, then sounds like putting them in Corn is a lot of fun. because
Yeah,
you're playing a lot harder than you should to get wins, and I think whereas you're like other opponents don't have to play as hard as you to win, because a strategy of run across the table and smash with your good pieces and screen your good pieces so you can do this is just a simple, straightforward, effective strategy, and as long as you have good target priority, it just works. You know, you have to like get people off balance with Beasts of Chaos, and so like great players aren't going to fall for your stupid tricks to get them off balance. Like, but like you're gonna have a lot of fun doing it, and then like you're gonna get respect from good and smart players who see how good and smart you are with playing in like this army that doesn't have all the tools.
totally.
So
I gotta hop off here soon. I
yeah.
apologize.
Yeah, I was trying to wrap out here, and I realized I had answered a comment that I promised to talk about Beast of Chaos tonight. So.
No, you're fine. All
right, man. Thank you for joining me. Chat gang, as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me and making the show what it is. Can't have RantCast without the show within the show. Take care, everybody. Let's do this again sometime, and enjoy your holiday stuff in whatever manner you holiday. Good night, dog. Thanks for being on.
Yeah. Take it easy. Good night, everybody.